Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm doing a recording of the full book called The Value of Time by Sheikh Abdul Fattah Ghuddah. The reason I'm doing this is because I've read this book this year, 2021, and I've found that it is the most inspirational and motivational book that I've read by far this year, maybe even since I read the Quran. I don't know if any other book has affected me in the way this one has. It's only a small book. I believe it's around 80 pages, which would probably clock in at less than 2 hours time. So what I'll do in this section, I'm going to read the blurb, tell you what you can expect from this book, and then maybe start with the introduction. The Value of Time is a collection of amazing sayings and wonderful stories of the scholars of the Muslim Ummah, which indicate to the importance they attached to time. It is a book that will inspire the youth and the old alike to spend their time constructively and avoid wasting time. The stories narrated, unimaginable as they may be, are not fables or fairy tales, but are all authentic events that have been well documented and narrated by scholars themselves. The author, Abdul Fattah Ghuddah, was one of the prominent scholars of the 20th century and a veteran leader of the Islamic movement in Syria. The Value of Time by Abdul Fattah Ghuddah, translated by Yusra al-Ghanouchi. Sheikh Abdul Fattah Ghuddah was born in Syria in 1917. One of the outstanding Muslim scholars of the 20th century, Sheikh Abu Ghuddah was a leading scholar in the field of Hadith and Hanafi school of fiqh. He studied in Syria and Egypt, specializing in Arabic language, Hadith, Sharia, and psychology. He has many prominent teachers, among them Sheikh Raghib al-Tabakh, Sheikh Ahmed ibn Muhammad al-Zarqa, Sheikh Isa al-Bayanuni, Sheikh Ahmed al-Kurdi, and the renowned Ottoman scholar Imam al-Kawthari. He taught Usul al-Fiqh, Hanafi Fiqh, and Comparative Fiqh at the University of Damascus. He also taught at the King Saud University and Imam Muhammad ibn Saud Islamic University. He was buried in Al-Baqi Cemetery in Medina, 1997. Forward. Sheikh Abdul Fattah Ghuddah, 1917 to 1997, the author of the present work, was one of the leading scholars of the 20th century, especially in the field of Hadith and the sciences related to Hadith. He was taught by over 200 scholars, drawn from the fields of Hadith, Fiqh, and other Islamic disciplines. Among them, the renowned Ottoman scholar and expert of Fiqh, Hadith, and the science of Rijal, Imam Sahid al-Kawthari. Sheikh Abu Ghuddah taught Usul al-Fiqh, Fiqh, and Comparative Fiqh at the University of Damascus. He also taught at the King Saud University and Imam Muhammad ibn Saud University. The Sheikh was a traditionalist, muhaddith, and scholar of great repute, with an in-depth knowledge of the history of scholarship and scholars in Islam. He has written extensively on different aspects of Hadith, Fiqh, and Islamic education, and his books are a model of objective historical scholarship. He has created an extraordinarily rich and detailed mosaic of scholarship and learning in the Islamic world. As author of numerous valuable books, he was eminently qualified to undertake this present task entitled The Value of Time in the Lives of Scholars. We are fortunate to have this work undertaken by him. He has done extensive research to collect material for this book and illuminate the precious examples from the past. The aptitude with which he brings to life those great scholars and works of the past succeeds in bringing history to life and filling us again with invigorating and inspirational thoughts. The book provides vivid insight into a subject of great importance, not only for students and scholars, but every human being who regards time as a valuable gift from God and is keen to appreciate this gift. I cannot imagine that we will ever have a more profound portrait of the value of time and its appreciation by earlier Muslim scholars. This is a pioneering work in the sense that, according to my knowledge, it is the first study that is exclusively devoted to the value of time. In particular, the book highlights the value of time in the field of knowledge and its people. It teaches us how to appreciate this invaluable gift and blessings from God, and how to benefit from it. It reminds us of the need to manage our time well and avoid falling into excessiveness in speech, food, gatherings, and meetings. By doing this, we can achieve the most eminent legacies and the best and most lasting of deeds. The Sheikh reminds us how the pious predecessors and early scholars, who are for us a model of all good deeds and example for every virtue, valued this immense gift, and how every moment of their lives was calculated to be spent in the pursuit of knowledge. The Sheikh himself exemplified devotion to the service of knowledge and the treasuring of time. Even whilst travelling, he would keep himself busy in reading or writing. Once, while he was at the airport in Karachi, the flight was delayed, and rather than waste time, he read Anwar Shah Kashmiri's Al-Tasrih bima tawatara fi nuzul al-Masih to his students, Mufti Shafi and Maulana Yusuf bin Aouri, who were there to see him off. I remember when he came to England on the occasion of the Sultan of Brunei prize ceremony in his honour. I was at the airport with Maulana Zahid al-Rashidi when he left, and we spent the time until his departure reading extracts of Al-Adab al-Mufrad of Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah. The Sheikh's writings embody the beauty of the Arabic language. His style is eloquent and flows smoothly, keeping the reader absorbed. I hope its readers will enjoy this book and will benefit from it. The present English translation of The Value of Time from the Arabic original by Yusra al-Ghanouchi is timely. The translator deserves congratulations in undertaking this great task and thus helping the English-speaking world gain access to this precious work. The publisher also deserves our gratitude for making it available to the English reader. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all those who participated in its production and guide us to the benefit from this effort. Muhammad Akram Nadwi, Oxford Centre for Islamic Studies, Oxford, UK, July 2003. Preface. All praise be to Allah, and that is sufficient a praise. And prayers and peace be upon his chosen servants, at the forefront of whom is our master and messenger, Muhammad al-Mustafa, and upon his family, his companions, his followers, and all those who were guided by them and follow them. These are a few pages which I have written to elucidate the value of time in the lives of scholars, through which I wished to highlight the value of this immense blessing that is the setting of life, in particular in the field of knowledge and its people, and how it can give rise to amazing wonders. If one knew how to benefit from it, if one managed one's time well, and avoided falling into excessiveness in speech, food, gatherings and meetings. Thus, one would achieve the most eminent legacies and the best and most lasting of deeds. One's remembrance will be eternalized due to the benefit he has caused, along with the pious good doers. May Allah reward amply our pious predecessors and early scholars, for they were for us a model in all good deeds, and an example for every virtue. O Allah, guide us to follow their path in all matters, and enable us to benefit from our lives and our times, to use them in what makes you pleased with us, and keep us away from excessiveness in all matters. You are indeed able to do all things. And prayers and peace be upon our Master Muhammad and on his family and companions, and praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds. Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghuddah, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, July 1982. The Value of Time, page 1. This short title contains within it many different meanings and issues, all of which merit discussion. For the value given to time by philosophers is unlike that given to it by merchants, which is yet different from the value given to it by farmers, craftsmen, soldiers, politicians, young, old, and is yet valued differently by the students of knowledge and scholars. I am only concerned, in this book, with the value of time to students and the people of knowledge, in the hope that this will spur on the spirits of our young students of knowledge in these days, where the resolve of students has weakened and the industrious students have become negligent, and where it has become rare to find a student burning with desires to acquire knowledge. Thus, genius qualities have disappeared and idleness and lethargy prevail, and failure and backwardness have become apparent in the ranks of the people of knowledge and the works that they produce. The blessings and favours bestowed by Allah upon His slaves are infinite in number, and no human being is capable of enumerating nor understanding them. Due to their number, permanence, ease, and the continuous manner in which Allah bestows them, and the different levels of appreciation that people have for them. Truthful indeed is Allah, as He says, but if you count the blessings of Allah, never will you be able to number them. Man is indeed most unjust and most ungrateful. Blessings are primary and secondary. Blessings are divided into two different kinds, primary and secondary. Having an abundance of wealth and knowledge, a strong body, observance of the nawafil, such as waking up to pray at night and reading the Quran frequently, and following the sunnah of the Prophet in bodily cleanliness, perfuming oneself, in the case of men, when attending a gathering, and shaking hands with those who you meet, entering the masjid with one's right foot and leaving it with the left, and removing harmful objects from paths and roads, as well as many other actions performed by the Prophets which are recommended for us to emulate. All of these are examples of secondary blessings, but they are great in the eyes of those who know their true values. Primary blessings are also numerous and infinite in number, the first of which is the belief in Allah the Most Exalted, and the messengers, and books sent by Him, and implementing His commands and abiding by them. Other blessings include having a healthy body, eyes, ears, and all other senses, which are the fulcrum for a man's essence and the foundation from which he may go forth and benefit from his existence. The blessing of knowledge is also a primary blessing that is essential for the advancements of humanity and its happiness in this life and the next. For knowledge is a lofty blessing, whichever form it takes. Seeking it is a blessing. Benefiting from it and benefiting others by it is a blessing. Preserving it and transmitting it to the following generations is a blessing, as is spreading it to people. There are many other examples of primary blessings, which I will not mention here out of respect for the value of time. One of the primary blessings, or the loftiest and most precious of all primary blessings, is that of time. For the discussion of which these pages have been assembled, particularly its value for students and people of knowledge. Time is the substance of life, the sphere in which man exists, the citadel of his spirit and his subsistence, him benefiting himself and others. The Holy Quran indicates the greatness of this most primary of all blessings, and stated its supremacy over all the other blessings in many verses, of which I will mention but a few. Allah, most exalted is He, said of His greatest blessing bestowed upon mankind, Allah is He who created the heavens and the earth and causes water to descend from the sky, thereby producing fruits as food for you, and makes the ships to be of service to you, that they may run upon the sea at His command, and has made of service unto you the rivers, and makes the sun and the moon constant in their courses, to be of service unto you, and has made of service unto you the night and the day, and he gives you of all you ask of him. And if you count the favours of Allah, you will never number them. Man is indeed most unjust, most ungrateful. Thus, Allah has granted His creation the blessings of day and night, which are the blessings of time that we elucidate, and in which we elucidate, and through which this world passes from its beginning to its end. Allah, most exalted is He, says, illuminating this highest of blessings in a second verse. And He has constrained the night and the day and the sun and the moon to be of service to you, and the stars are made subservient by His command. Surely in this there are signs for people who reflect. Thus, Allah indicated at the end of the verse that in these blessings are indeed powerful signs for those who reflect and deliberate. And He, the Most Glorified, said, And we appoint the night and the day as two signs. Then we make dark the sign of the night, and we make the sign of the day sight-giving, that you may seek bounty from your Lord, and that you may know the computation of the years and the reckoning, and everything we have expounded with a clear expounding. And Allah, the Most Glorified, said, And of His signs are the night and the day, and the sun and the moon. Prostrate yourself neither to the moon nor to the sun, but prostrate to Allah who created them, if it is in truth Him whom you worship. Allah extolled Himself as the Lord of time and space and whatever exists in them. Unto Him belongs whatsoever rests in the night and the day. He is the hearer, the knower. Allah reprimands disbelievers for wasting their lives. Allah, the Most Exalted, addresses the non-believers reprimanding them for wasting their lives, spending them in a state of disbelief, and not leaving their state of disbelief to a state of belief despite the blessings of long lives that Allah has bestowed upon them. As He, the Most Glorified, said, Did we not grant you a life long enough for him who reflected to reflect therein? And the warner came to you. Now taste the flavour of your deeds, for evildoers have no helpers. Hence, He, the Most Glorified, has made the blessings of a long life a reason for one to reflect and ponder, and He has made one's life as proof against him, as He has made messengers and warners proofs and witnesses over him as well. Ibn Kathir said in his tafsir of this noble verse, it means, Did you not live in this life and have such long lifespans that you have been of those who benefit from signs and who follow the truth, you would have done so in your lives? Fattah said, Know that the length of one's life is a proof against him. So we seek refuge in Allah from being mocked and blamed due to our long lives. Al-Bukhari narrated in his Sahih on the authority of Abu Hurairah that the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah will not accept the excuse of any person whose instance of death Allah has delayed till he is 60 years of age. Imam Ahmed narrated in his Musnad on the authority of Abu Hurairah that the Prophet ﷺ said, Whomsoever Allah grants a lifespan of 60 years, then He will not accept any excuses from him relating to the shortness of his life, meaning that Allah has removed any excuses he might cite and will have no possible excuse, for Allah has granted him such a long lifetime. Allah vows by time. There are many more verses that draw our attention to the greatness of this primary blessings, and it is sufficient for you to know that Allah, the Most Glorified, has vowed by time in its different phases in many verses in His noble book, alerting us to the value of time and advising us of its importance. Hence, He, the Most Exalted, vowed by the night, the day, the dawn, the morning, the sunset, the forenoon, the afternoon, such as His saying, by the night enshrouding and the day resplendent, and His saying, and by the night when it withdraws, and the dawn when it shines forth, and His saying, and the night when it departs, and by the dawn as it brightens, And he's saying, so I swear by the afterglow of sunset and by the night and all that it enshrouds. And he's saying, by the dawn and 10 nights. And he's saying, by the morning hours and the night when it is stillest. And he's saying, by time, verily, man is in loss. It is noteworthy that all matters for which Allah vows by time are of the utmost importance, and that He vowed by time in 2 very important matters. That is the reassurance of the Prophet ﷺ that he had not been abandoned by Allah as claimed by the polytheists, and in asserting that all mankind is in loss except those who believe and do righteous deeds. Allah said, vowing by time, by the glorious morning light, and by the night when it is still, your Lord has not forsaken you, nor is he displeased. He also said, by time, verily man is in loss, except such as have faith and do righteous deeds, and in the mutual teaching of truth and of patience and constancy. Imam Fakhr al-Din al-Razi, commentary on the value of time. Imam Fakhr al-Din al-Razi, may Allah the Exalted have mercy on him, said in his tafsir of Surat al-Asr, Allah vowed by Asr, which is time, because of its wonders, for within it good and bad matters occur, health and illness, richness and poverty, and because its value and preciousness cannot be measured against anything else. For if you wasted 1,000 years in useless things, then repented and achieved happiness in the last instant of your life, you would dwell in paradise for eternity, and you would know that the most precious thing in your life is that instant. Thus, time is one of the fundamental blessings, hence Allah vowed by it, and He, the Exalted, stressed that night and day are opportunities wasted by man, and that time is more honoured than space, since time is a pure blessing with no defect, except that the loser to be blamed is man. That was some of what was written in that noble book about the value of time, and how it is one of the fundamental and most important of blessings. The value of time in the Sunnah. As for the blessed Sunnah, clarification of this fact is even clearer and more explicit. Al-Bukhari, Al-Tirmidhi and Ibn Majah narrated on the authority of Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with both of them, that the Prophet ﷺ said, there are 2 blessings which many people lose, health and free time for doing good. Time is a precious blessing and a great gift, the value of which is only realized and benefited from by the successful guided ones, as indicated by the noble hadith, which many people lose, implying that only a minority benefits from it, whilst the majority are wasters and losers. Protectiveness of time by the worshipper and the wise. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah the Exalted have mercy on him, said in his book Madarij al-Saliqeen, writing on the station of ghira, protectiveness, and its comprising several aspects, mention ghira over time, saying, ghira, regret, over any time that has passed, and it is a deadly regret, for time passes fleetingly, and it is difficult to hold on to, slow to regain. Time, for the worshipper, is the time for worship and litanies, and for the murid, spiritual seeker, is the time for drawing close to Allah and devoting his heart completely to Him. Time is the dearest thing to him. He fears that it may pass without him achieving his desire. If time passes him, he can never get it back, for the time that follows it has its own accompanying obligations and opportunities, such that when once time is lost, there is no way to regain it. A deadly regret means that its effect is akin to the pain of being killed, because the regret of hearts is deadly, particularly when one is certain that there is no way to regain what was lost. Also, regret over loss is another loss. As it is said, busying oneself with regret over time lost in the past is wasting the present time. Hence it is said, time is like a sword, if you do not slay it, it slays you. Time passes naturally, ends automatically, so whoever is not aware of his soul, his time will be lost, his loss will be great, and his regrets will be severe. How will he feel when he realizes, when his loss becomes certain, the magnitude of what he has lost, and when he seeks going back and finds it impossible to regain what he has lost? For how can yesterday be returned in a new day? But then there will be no escape for them, and they will be seized from a position quite near, and they will say, "We do believe now in the truth," but how could they receive faith from a position so far off? And when he is deprived of what he wishes and desires, and becomes certain that what he has purchased was not fit to be purchased by a rational person, and there will be a barrier between him and that which he desires. What regrets? To the return to the likes of which there is no way, and had their return been possible, the regret would have been bearable. Events are short-lasting, they pass like the passing of clouds, and time, with what is within it, passes, and the remains is its effect. Hence, choose for yourself what will remain with you of your time, for the effect will surely remain, and thus to the happy ones it will be said in paradise, "Eat and drink to your heart's content, because of what you did in days gone by." And it will be said to the wretched ones in the hellfire, "You have met this fate, because you exulted in the earth without right, and because you were insolent." All benefit derives from time, thus whoever loses it can never regain it. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim also said in his book Al-Jawab al-Kafi liman sa'ala ani al-dawa al-shafi, the satisfactory answer to the one who asked regarding the curing medicine, "The highest, noblest, and most beneficial of thoughts are those that are for Allah and the hereafter. What is for Allah is of many types. The fifth kind is reflecting on the obligation of using time and its function, and gathering all of one's resolve for that purpose alone. For the intelligent one is the one who is conscious of his time, and if he loses it, then he would have lost all his interests. For all interests derive from time, and whenever time is lost, it can never be regained." Ash-Shafi, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "I accompanied the Sufis, and I only benefited from two of their sayings. First, time is a sword. If you do not slay it, it will slay you. And the second, keep your soul occupied with good, otherwise it will keep you occupied with evil." One's time is in fact one's life, and the substance of one's eternal life in lasting pleasure, or of a life of suffering in severe torment. It passes faster than the passing of clouds, and a portion of one's time that was for Allah and with Allah is part of one's life, while the rest is not counted as part of one's life, even if one lived long. For one was living the life of animals. For the one who spends his time in negligence, desire, and false wishes, and spends most of his time in sleeping and idleness, then the death of such a person is better for him than his life. And if one has of one's prayer only that part in which one was conscious, as in the hadith, then similarly, what counts of one's life for one is only that which was spent for Allah and with Allah. The Salaf's keenness to gain time and fill it with goodness. The pious predecessors and those successors who followed their way were the keenest of people to gain time and to fill it with good deeds, whether they were scholars or worshippers, for they raced against the hours and used every instant, being very careful with their time, so that they may not lose any part of it. Hold the sun so I can talk to you. It was narrated about Amr ibn Abdul Qais, one of the ascetic tabi'een, that a man said to him, "Talk to me." Amr ibn Abdul Qais replied, "Hold the sun." What he meant was, "Stop for me the sun, or prevent it from continuing its movement, so that I can talk to you. For time is ever moving, and does not return once it has passed, such that its loss is an irreplaceable loss that cannot be regained. for each time has its own actions to fill it. Ibn Mas'ud's regret over a day that passed of his life. The eminent companion Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, said, I have never regretted anything as much as my regret over a day on which the sun sets and my lifespan decreased, while my good deeds have not increased. Night and day are ever working on you, thus work on them. The pious Caliph, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, may Allah be pleased with him, said, Night and day are ever working on you, thus work on them. O son of Adam, you are but days. Al-Hasan al-Basri, may Allah be pleased with him, said, O son of Adam, you are but days, such that with every day that goes by, part of you departs with it. He also said, I have seen people who were more protective of their time than you are of your dirhams and dinars. Hamad ibn Salama was either narrating, reading, glorifying Allah, or praying. Al-Hafid al-Dhahabi said in Tadkharat al-Hufad, in his biography of Imam al-Muhaddith Hamad ibn Salama al-Basri al-Bazaz al-Khiraqi, the Imam, scholar of Hadith and philology, Sheikh al-Islam, was born in 91 after Hijrah and died in 167 after Hijrah. He was the first to classify the sciences with Ibn Abi Uraba and was very proficient in Arabic, articulate and eloquent, a strict follower of the Sunnah, and was a pious worshipper. His student Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi said, If it was said to Hamad ibn Salama, you shall die tomorrow, he would not be able to increase his good deeds. Musa ibn Ismail al-Tabudakhi said, If I told you that I have never seen Hamad ibn Salama laughing, I would be telling the truth. He was always busy, either narrating the hadith, or reading, or glorifying Allah, or praying, and he divided his day between them. Yunus al-Muwaddib said, Hamad ibn Salama died whilst in prayer. May Allah have mercy on him. The most burdensome time for Al-Khalil ibn Ahmed is his mealtime. Abu Hilal al-Askari said in his book, Al-Hathu al-Talabi al-Ilm wal-Ijtihad fi Jama'ah, encouraging the seeking of knowledge and compiling it, Al-Khalil ibn Ahmed al-Farihidi al-Basri, one of the world's most prominent intellectuals, born in the year 100 after Hijrah and died in 170 after Hijrah, may Allah have mercy on him, used to say, The most burdensome time for me is when I must eat. It is indeed amazing to what degree he was devoted to knowledge, and how precious his time was to him. Abu Yusuf discussing a matter of fiqh on his deathbed. Here we see the judge and Imam Abu Yusuf, Yaqub ibn Ibrahim al-Ansari al-Kufi, later al-Baghdadi, born in 113 after Hijrah, died 182 after Hijrah, may Allah have mercy upon him. The companion of Abu Hanifa and his students who spread his knowledge and madhab, the judge of the three Abbasid rulers, Al-Mahdi, Al-Hadi and Al-Rashid, the first to be called Qadi al-Qadat, the supreme judge, and also known as the supreme judge of the world's judges. We see him on his deathbed during his last moments in this life, discussing a matter of fiqh with some of his visitors in order to benefit and teach, and not wishing to lose the last moments of his life without making use of it, benefiting himself and being beneficial to others. His student Al-Qadi Ibrahim ibn al-Jarrah al-Kufi, later al-Misri, said, Abu Yusuf became ill, so I went to visit him and found him unconscious. When he regained consciousness, he said to me, O Ibrahim, what is your opinion on this matter? I said to him, While you are in this state? He said, That is fine, let us discuss it, perhaps one might be saved by it. Then he said, O Ibrahim, which is better in the casting of stones, during pilgrimage, to do so whilst walking or whilst mounted? I said, Mounted. He said, Wrong. I said, Walking. He said, Wrong. I said, Say your opinion. May Allah be pleased with you. He said, As for the case where one stops, where one should make supplication, then it is better to do so whilst walking. But if it is elsewhere, then it is better whilst mounted. Then I left him, and as soon as I reached the door of his house, I heard crying, and he had died. May Allah have mercy on him. This is indeed the way of the scholars and imams, for they say, seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. Abu Yusuf's son dies, so he delegates someone to wash him and bury him in order to attend his circle. The great Imam Abu Yusuf al-Qadi al-Ama'i was a close companion of his Sheikh Abu Hanifa, attending his study circle for 17 years, or as some say 29 years, never missing the Dhuhr prayer with him, nor leaving him except due to illness. Muhammad ibn Qudama narrated that Shuja ibn Makhlad once heard Abu Yusuf state, "A son of mine died, and I did not attend his washing or burial, and left my neighbours and relatives in charge of that, lest I should miss some part of Abu Hanifa's lecture and regret it for the rest of my life." Muhammad ibn al-Hasan sleeps but little of the night. Al-Alama Tashkhaburi Zadeh said in Miftah al-Sa'adah wal Misbah al-Siyada, the key to happiness and the lamp of dominance. Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani al-Kufi al-Baghdadi, the Imam of Fiqh and Hadith and al-Mujtahid, the students of Imam Abu Hanifa, born 132 after Hijrah, died 189 after Hijrah, may Allah have mercy on him, did not sleep at night. He used to have several books, and whenever he became bored of reading one, he would turn to read another, and used to get rid of sleepiness by using cold water, and would say, sleep is indeed caused by heat. Isam al-Balakhi buys a pen for 1 dinar. Then the scholar Tashkhaburi Zadeh said, and Isam ibn Yusuf al-Balakhi, the Hanafi scholar of Fiqh and Hadith, who died in 215 after Hijrah, may Allah have mercy on him, bought a pen for 1 dinar in order to write what he heard immediately. For life is short and knowledge is vast, hence the students must not waste time and must make use of nights and solitary times, and must seek scholars and benefits from them, for not everything that is missed can be regained. And I will not regain what I have missed, through had I wish, or if only. Muhammad ibn Salam al-Bikhandi calling, 1 pen for 1 dinar. We see Muhammad ibn Salam al-Bikhandi, the Sheikh of Imam al-Bukhari, who died in 227 after Hijrah, as a young student sitting in a circle of knowledge, where his Sheikh was narrating and dictating. The pen of Muhammad ibn Salam broke, so he ordered someone to call, "A pen for 1 dinar," which was a great sum at the time, and pens flooded towards him. Narrated by Al-Hafid al-Aini in Umdat al-Qari. His generosity was motivated by his knowledge of the value of that precious time, and also the value of that which fills it. Here is a scholar seeking knowledge who realized the value of time, and hence sacrificed his money for a pen. Ubayd ibn Ya'ish fed by his sister for 30 years so that he may write the hadith. Al-Hafid al-Dahabi narrates in Siyar Alam al-Nubala, biographies of the prominent nobles, in the biography of the great scholar of hadith Ubayd ibn Ya'ish, the Sheikh of al-Bukhari and Muslim, the following. He is the great scholar of hadith, Abu Muhammad Ubayd bin Ya'ish al-Kufi al-Muhammili al-Atar. Al-Bukhari narrated on his authority concerning the raising of the hands, and Muslim in the Sahih, and Al-Nasa'i, Abu Zara, Al-Razi, Muhammad ibn Ayyum al-Bajali, and many others. Ammar ibn Raja said, I heard Ubayd ibn Ya'ish saying, "For 30 years I have never had time to eat at night. My sister used to feed me whilst I wrote hadith." Ibn Ma'in says to his Sheikh, "Dictate it to me now, lest I do not meet you again." Imam Ahmed and Imam Abu Isa al-Tirmidhi narrated the following, and the version included here is that of al-Tirmidhi. Abd ibn Humayd narrated to us and said, Muhammad ibn al-Fadl said that Hamid ibn Salama narrated on the authority of Habib ibn al-Shahid, on the authority of al-Hasan al-Basri, on the authority of Anas ibn Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Prophet ﷺ came out of his house during his last illness, leaning on Usama ibn Zayd, wearing a Qatari cloak, which he wrapped himself in, and he led them in prayer. Then Al-Tirmidhi said after narrating this hadith, Abd ibn Humayd, the Sheikh of Al-Tirmidhi, said that Muhammad ibn al-Fadl said, Yahya ibn Ma'in asked me regarding this hadith when he first attended my circle. I said, Hamad ibn Salama narrated it. So he said, could you dictate it from your book? I began to get my book out, but he held me from my clothes and asked, dictate it to me from memory. I fear that I may not meet you again. So I dictated it to him, then got my book out and read it to him. The scholarship of Yahya ibn Ma'in in Hadith. In order to understand better this narration, I would like to mention part of the biography of Imam Yahya ibn Ma'in. Al-Hafid al-Dhahabi said in Siyar A'lam al-Nubala about him, he is the great Imam and scholar, the master of Hufad, memorizers of Hadith, the king of Hufad, the Sheikh of the scholars of Hadith, Abu Zakaria, Yahya ibn Ma'in ibn Aun ibn Zayd ibn Bistam. He was not from the Arabs, but became allied with some of Bani Mur and came to be known as Al-Murri and Al-Baghdadi by birth. One of the most prominent scholars of Hadith, he was born in Baghdad in 158 after Hijrah and grew up there. He started writing Hadith at the age of 10. His father, Ma'in, was one of the noble scribes under Abdul ibn Malik in charge of the water tax, and left him 1 million dirhams, all of which he spent on acquiring knowledge of Hadith until he did not even have sandals to wear. He heard Hadith from Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, Hushaym ibn Bashir, Ismail ibn Ayash, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, Abdul Razak al-Sanani from Yemen, Waqi ibn al-Jarh, Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qatan, Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, and many more, in Iraq, Sham, the Arabian Peninsula, Egypt, and Al-Hijaz. On his authority, Imams Ahmad ibn Hanbal, al-Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, Abbas al-Dori al-Baghdadi, the narrator of his teachings, Abu Zara al-Razi, Uthman ibn Sa'id al-Darimi, Abu Ya'la al-Mawsili, and many others who cannot be enumerated, narrated. Ibn Ma'in wrote 1 million hadith by hand, and wrote each hadith 50 times. Ali ibn al-Madini said that everyone's knowledge went to Yahya ibn Ma'in. Abdul Khaliq ibn Mansur said, I said to Abdullah ibn al-Rumi that I heard some students of hadith narrating some hadith on the authority of Yahya ibn Ma'in and saying, it was narrated to me by the best of narrators to have ever existed. Ibn al-Rumi said, why would you be surprised? I heard Ali ibn al-Madini say, I saw no one like him. I do not know any man who wrote as much of the hadith as what Yahya ibn Ma'in wrote. Muhammad ibn Nasr al-Marwazi said, I heard Yahya ibn Ma'in say, I wrote by hand 1 million hadith. Al-Dahabi said that he meant including repetitions, for he said, had we not written a hadith 50 times, we would not have learnt it. Any hadith unknown to Ibn Ma'in is not a hadith. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said, any hadith that is unknown to Yahya ibn Ma'in is not a hadith. Yahya ibn Ma'in is a man created by Allah for this purpose, to reveal the lies of the liars. Regarding hadith, Abu Hatim al-Razi said, if you see an inhabitant of Baghdad loving Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, then know that he follows the Sunnah, and if you see that he dislikes Yahya ibn Ma'in, then know that he is a liar. Ibn Ma'in's saying, if you write, collect what you write, and if you narrate, search. Yahya ibn Ma'in is the one who set a great methodology in seeking and spreading knowledge. He made the statements which became the rule of all scholars of hadith in seeking knowledge and narrating. When you write, collect everything you hear, and when you narrate, search and investigate. the magnitude of the books of Yahya ibn Ma'in. Salih ibn Ahmed al-Hafid said that he heard Abu Abdullah say, I heard my father say that Yahya ibn Ma'in left behind 114 containers of books and 4 hibabs, large containers, full of books. Ibn Ma'in, the one who rejected lies about the Prophet. Whenever Yahya ibn Ma'in went on Hajj, he used to go to Mecca via Medina, and on his way back from Mecca, he would return via Medina. When he went to Hajj in 233 after Hijrah, he entered Medina before Hajj at the end of the month of Dhul Qa'dah, and he fell ill and died 7 days before the end of the month. People heard of his arrival and his death, and the tribe of Banu Hashim brought out the bed of which the Prophet ﷺ was washed and used it to prepare him for burial. People attended his funeral prayer and buried him in Al-Baqi, where the Prophet and his prominent companions are buried. And the people said, Here is the man who used to defend the Prophet of Allah from lies fabricated about him. Commentary on the story of Ibn Ma'in with his Sheikh Muhammad ibn al-Fadl. There are many precious lessons and dear benefits from the hadith received by Yahya ibn Ma'in from his Sheikh Muhammad ibn al-Fadl. Yahya ibn Ma'in, some of whose biography we have seen, asked his Sheikh Muhammad ibn al-Fadl as-Sudusi al-Basri to narrate the hadith to him as soon as he sat with him. And when he began to narrate, starting with Hamad ibn Salama narrated to us, Yahya said, If possible, from your book, please. Yahya did so only for further clarification and certainty, for Muhammad ibn al-Fadl is a trustworthy and competent scholar of hadith, but Yahya only wished for further certainty. It was in the tradition of the scholars of hadith before the establishment of schools and universities in the 5th century that the Sheikh would teach his students in the masjid, or in any spacious place if the masjid was not sufficiently spacious enough for the students, or in front of his house if their number was small. Muhammad ibn al-Fadl was narrating this hadith to Yahya ibn Ma'in in front of his house. When Muhammad ibn al-Fadl got up to enter his house and fetch his book to narrate from it, Yahya feared that Muhammad ibn al-Fadl may be prevented by something during that short time between his getting up to fetch his book from his house and his return, and that he might not hear the hadith. So he held on to him before he finished getting up and prevented him from going to his house until he narrated the hadith to him from his memory, out of his great desire to hear the hadith and his fear that something may prevent him from doing so. Hence he asked him, Please dictate it from memory, for I fear I may not see you again, for life has its interrupters, and I fear something may arise and prevent our meeting. Muhammad ibn al-Fadl then dictated the hadith to him from his memory first, then entered his house, collected his book, and read the hadith from it a second time. The story illustrated Imam Yahya ibn Ma'in's appreciation of the value of time and his great desire to seek knowledge and attain certainty, his racing to benefit, his avoidance of delaying the opportunity to learn and benefit, and his fear of any sudden interruptions of life. Through this short story, we can see how Imam Yahya ibn Ma'in valued and gained time, and we can understand how he was able to write 1 million hadith by hand, and to travel around many countries to learn from scholars and narrate what he learnt to thousands of scholars and students. Imam Yahya ibn Ma'in is not unique in this regard, and one could say the same of Imams Ali ibn al-Madini, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, al-Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, at-Tirmidhi, and Nasai, and others like them. The Cherishing of Knowledge by Al-Jahiz, Al-Fattah ibn Khaqan, and Ismail al-Qadi. Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi narrated in his book Taqyid al-Ilm on the authority of Abul Abbas al-Mubarrid, I have not seen anyone who valued knowledge more than these three: Al-Jahiz, Amr ibn Bahr, the Imam of the men of letters, born in 163, died in 255, Al-Fath ibn Khaqan, the genius, writer and poet, one of the nobles chosen by the Abbasid Caliph, Al-Mutawakkil, as a minister and companion who had a library containing the most sought-after books, who died in 237 after Hijrah, and Ismail al-Qadi, the Maliki Imam of scholar of fiqh of Baghdad, born in 200 after Hijrah, died in 282 after Hijrah. As for Al-Jahiz, whenever he found a book he would read it from cover to cover, whatever book it may be, to the extent that he used to rent the shops of the paper sellers and spend the nights there in order to read the books they sorted. And as for Al-Fath ibn Haqqan, he used to carry a book in his sleeve or shoe, and whenever he would leave Al-Mutawakkil to go to the bathroom or for prayer, he would take the book out and read whilst walking until arriving at his destination, and the same on the way back, until arriving at his seat. Whenever Al-Mutawakkil left for any need, he would bring the book out and read until the return of Al-Mutawakkil. As for Ismail ibn Ishaq al-Qadi, I have never seen him without finding him with a book in his hand, or looking through books, searching for one to read, or dusting the books. The servant of Ibn Suhnun feeds him dinner, but he does not notice because of his engagement in writing. Al-Qadi Iyad, in his Tartib al-Madarikh, wrote in the biography of the Maliki scholar of fiqh and hadith, Muhammad ibn Suhun of Qayrawan, born 202 after Hijrah, died 256 after Hijrah, may Allah have mercy on him. Al-Maliki said, Muhammad ibn Suhnun had a servant called Mudam. Once he was in her house, and he was busy writing a book until the evening. When it was time for dinner, she asked permission to serve dinner, but he replied, I am busy at the moment. After waiting for a very long time, she started feeding him his dinner until he finished eating, while he continued working. He then continued to write until the time of the call for dawn prayer. He then said, Last night I was too busy with my work, O Madam. Bring that which you have. She replied, By Allah, I fed it to you. He said, I did not notice. Philologist Thalab accepts an invitation on the condition that he finishes reading his book. Abu Hilal al-Askari said in his book Al-Hathu al-Talab al-Ilm wal-Ijtihad fi Jama'ah. It was related concerning Thalab, Ahmad ibn Yahya al-Shaybani of Kufa and Baghdad, one of the leading scholars of philology, linguistics, literature, hadith and qira'at, born in 200 after Hijrah, died 291 after Hijrah, may Allah have mercy on him, that he always had a book he was reading. Whenever he received an invitation, he would ask for a leather carpet on which he would sit and read. Thalab dies after being run over by an animal while reading. According to Khalikan, the cause of Thalab's death was that he left the masjid on Friday after Asr prayer and he had hearing difficulties. He had a book in his hand that he was reading whilst walking. He was hit by a horse which pushed him into a hole. He was carried home in that state, suffering from severe head pains, and died the following day. May Allah have mercy on him. Ibn Jarir's valuing of his time and his determination to write a tafsir in 30,000 pages. Imam Ibn Jarir at-Tabari, the Imam of the scholars of tafsir, hadith and history, the great mujtahid, may Allah have mercy on him, was a sign from among the signs in his beneficial use of his time and gaining it and filling it with learning, teaching and writing, whose works were truly amazing, not only in their number but also in their perfection and creativity. The following excerpts about the life of this great scholar, Imam Ibn Jarir at-Tabari, are taken from the 56-page biography written by the scholar Yaqut al-Hamawi in his book Mujam al-Udaba, and from the scholars of Hadith al-Khatib al-Baghdadi wrote in the history of Baghdad. The philologist Ali ibn Ubaidullah as-Simsimi narrated on the authority of Abu Umar Ubaidullah ibn Ahmad al-Simsar and Abu al-Qasim ibn Uqayl al-Wariq that Abu Jafr al-Tabari said to his companions, What would you think of the writing of a tafsir of Al-Quran? They said, How long will it be? He said, 30,000 pages. They said, Lives would end before its completion, so he restricted it to around 3,000 pages and dictated it in 7 years, from 283 to 290 after Hijrah. Then he said to them, "What would you think of the writing of a book on the history of the world from the time of Adam to our time?" They said, "How long will it be?" He said, 30,000 pages. They gave him the same reply. He said regretfully, "We are Allah's, and to him we shall return. Resolves have died." He reduced it to the same length of the tafsir and completed editing it on Wednesday, 3 days before the end of the month of Rabi al-Akhir in the year 303 after Hijrah. Ibn Jarir wrote 40 pages every day. Al-Khatib said, "I heard Al-Simsimi relate that Ibn Jarir spent 40 years in which he wrote 40 pages every day. His student Abu Muhammad Abdullah ibn Ahmad ibn Jafar al-Falghani wrote in his book known as Al-Silah, a book which he linked to the history of Ibn Jarir. Some students of Ibn Jarir's counted the total number of days he had lived, from his birth to his death at the age of 86, and divided the number of pages of his writings by those days, which came to 14 pages every day, which is only possible for a man with the help and blessings of the Creator. The total of Ibn Jarir's writings is 358,000 pages. Ibn Jarir was born in 224 AH and died in 310 AH, and if we subtract the period before maturity estimated to be 14 years, it would leave Ibn Jarir 72 years in which he wrote 14 pages every day. And if we count the days in those 72 years and multiply them by the 14 pages written daily, the total written by Imam Ibn Jarir would be around 358,000 pages. His books on history and tafsir were each around 3,000 pages long, making them together total around 7,000. His history was printed in 11 large volumes and his tafsir in 30 large volumes. If you consider the rest of his writings, 351,000 pages, you would realize the extent of the writings of this Imam, who was like an encyclopedia in his knowledge, like a publishing house in his writing, whilst he was but an individual, writing with his own pen on paper, and spreading his knowledge and thought to the people as purified sweet honey, and that would have not been possible were it not for the fact that he used his time beneficially and knew how to manage it and use it effectively. Ibn Jarir's time management. The judge Abu Bakr ibn Kamil Ahmad ibn Kamil al-Shajari, the student and companion of Ibn Jarir, said, describing how he, may Allah have mercy on him, ordered his times and activities. After eating, he used to sleep in a short-sleeved shirt, rubbed with sandalwood and rosewater. Then he would get up to pray Dhuhr at home and would write until Asr time, and would go out to pray Asr. Then would sit teaching the people and correcting them until Maghrib. Then he would sit to teach fiqh until the last Isha prayer. Then he would go home. He used to divide his day and his night between his personal interests, his religion, and people, as guided by Allah, high and glorified be He. Ibn Jarir makes a note a little before his death. Ustad Muhammad Qardali wrote in his book Kunuz al-Ajdad, Treasures of the Forefathers, on the biography of Imam Ibn Jarir at-Tabari. He was not known for having wasted even a minute in his life except in benefiting or giving benefit. Ibn Zakaria narrated on the authority of some trustworthy narrators that he was in the presence of Abu Ja'far at-Tabari, may Allah have mercy on him, before his death, an hour or less after which he died. When he heard this dua on the authority of Jabir ibn Muhammad, he asked for ink and paper and wrote it down. He was asked, "In the state you are in?" He replied, "One must not leave seeking knowledge until death. May Allah have mercy on him and reward him for the benefit he has brought to Islam and the Muslims." Ibn Jarir's lasting legacy through his writings. This was a quick glance at the writings of Imam Ibn Jarir at-Tabari, may Allah have mercy on him, without enumerating and mentioning all of their titles and topics, some of which have survived to this day. These are an eternal reminder of him more so than any number of sons or grandsons could ever be, for they would eventually disappear into the past and be forgotten, whilst these writings remain a lasting legacy after 1100 years of his death. Imam Ibn al-Jawzi was right when he said, "The scholar's book is his eternal child." Philologist Ibn al-Khayyat fell into a hole as he was reading whilst walking. Abu Hilal al-Askari wrote in his book Al-Hathu al-Talabi al-Ilmi wal-Ijtihad fi Jama'ah. The philologist Abu Bakr ibn al-Khayyat, Imam Muhammad ibn Ahmed ibn Masur from Samarkand, who lived in Baghdad, died in 320 AH, used to study at all times, even whilst walking in the street, and many times was hit by horses and knocked into ditches. Al-Hakim al-Shahid does not speak to his visitors due to preoccupation with writing. In As-Samani's Al-Ansab, he wrote on the biography of Al-Hakim al-Shahid, Abu al-Fadl Muhammad ibn al-Marwazi al-Balkhi, the Hanafi scholar and judge, who died as a martyr in 334 AH, may Allah have mercy on him, the scholar of Marv and the greatest Hanafi Imam of his time. Abu Abdullah ibn al-Hakim al-Shahid said, I have observed al-Hakim fasting every Monday and Thursday, not missing the night prayer whether travelling or residing. He used to sit with his inkpot and books when he was the Sultan's minister, and would only grant permission to those who he could not refuse entry, and would continue his writing until the visitor left. Abul Abbas ibn Hamuyyah complained of him, and said, We go to visit him, but he does not speak to us, he holds his pen and leaves us. Al-Hakim Abu Abdullah, author of Al-Mustadrak, said, I attend on a Friday afternoon the lesson of Al-Hakim Abul Fadl. Prince Abu Ali ibn Bakr ibn Mazafir entered, so he stood up for him and did not move from his place, and sent him away, saying, Go, O Prince, for this is not your day. The numerous writings of Hadith scholar Ibn Shaheen. Ad-Dahabi wrote in Tadkhirat al-Hufad in the biography of scholar Ibn Shaheen, born 297 AH, died 385 AH at the age of 88, may Allah have mercy on him. He is the great Imam, the scholar of Hadith of Iraq, Abu Hafs Umar ibn Uthman al-Baghdadi, known as Ibn Shaheen, the writer of many books. His student Abul Hussein ibn al-Muhtadi Bilah said, Ibn Shaheen said to us, I wrote 330 books, including Tafsir al-Kabir, 1,000 volumes, Al-Musnad, 1,300 volumes, At-Tarikh, 150 volumes, and Az-Zuhud of 100 volumes. Ibn Shaheen spends 700 dirhams on ink. Muhammad ibn Umr ad-Dawudi al-Qadi said that he heard Ibn Shaheen say, I counted the price of the ink I have bought to this day, and it amounted to 700 dirhams. Ibn al-Fawariz said, Ibn Shaheen wrote more books than anyone ever did. Philologist Mundhir al-Mawani, known as Study. One of the scholars of the Arabic language became known as al-Mudhakkara, Study, because of his great attachment to the study of the sciences of Arabic language with any scholar he met. Al-Hafid ibn Hajar said in Nushat al-Albab fil al-Alqab, al-Mudhakkara is al-Mundhir ibn Abdurrahman ibn Muawiyah ibn Muhammad ibn al-Mundhir ibn Abdurrahman ibn Muawiyah ibn Hisham ibn Abdul Malik the Andalusi, the Marwani. He was known by that name because he was fond of the science of grammar and was a scholar of the Arabic language. Whenever he met any of his companions, he would say, Would you like to do some mudhakkara, study and revision of Arabic? Thus he became known as al-Mudhakkara. He was mentioned by Ibn Hazim, who wrote that he died in 393 AH. Abu Nu'aym al-Asfahani, teaching whilst walking. Al-Hafid al-Dhahabi wrote in Tadkhirat al-Hufad in the biography of Al-Hafid Abu Nu'aym al-Asfahani Ahmed ibn Abdullah, the scholar of Hadith, history and Sufism, born 336 AH, died 430 AH, may Allah have mercy on him. Ahmed ibn Mardawayh said Abu Nu'aym was at his time a scholar sought by all seekers of knowledge. There was no one who had more knowledge of the Hadith and the chains of narration than him. All scholars of Hadith used to travel to meet him, each of them being allocated a day on which he would read to him for verification until the time of Dhuhr, and when he would leave to go to his house, some would also read to him on the way, and he was never tired of teaching. He had no food other than teaching and writing. Al-Bayruni learns a point of fiqh while on his deathbed. In Mujam al-Udaba of Yaqut al-Amawi, it was written in the biography of the great Imam, the astronomer, mathematician, Historian, philologist, the scholar of many disciplines, Abu al-Rayhan al-Bayruni, Muhammad ibn Ahmad al-Khawarizmi, born 362 AH, died 440 AH, may Allah have mercy on him. Abu al-Rayhan was bent on seeking knowledge of all sciences, devoted to the writing of books, addressing all sides and details of the matter, his pen seldom leaving his hand, nor his eye leaving reading, his heart thinking, except on the days of Newruz and Al-Mihrajan, in order to prepare the necessities of life, dedicating the remaining days of the years to knowledge. The scholar of fiqh, Abul Hasan Ali ibn Isa al-Walwaliji said, I visited Abu Rayhan whilst on his deathbed in his last moments at the age of 78, and he said to me whilst in that state, You had told me one day about the matter of maternal grandmothers. I said, out of pity for him, Whilst you are in this state? He said, O you, that I leave this world knowing this matter, would that not be better than me leaving it whilst ignorant of it? So I repeated what I had told him, and he memorized it, and he taught me what he had promised. Then I left his house, and soon after that I heard crying. This great Imam mastered 5 languages, Arabic, Syriac, Sanskrit, Persian and Hindi, and he wrote on astronomy, mathematics, medicine, literature, linguistics, history, and other disciplines, over 120 books. The famous Orientalist Sakhaw wrote about him. He was the greatest mind known in history. The science historian Sarton wrote about him. Al-Bayruni was the greatest of Muslim figures, and among the world's greatest scientists. See his biography and scientific contributions in the Arabic Scientific Heritage in Astronomy and Mathematics by Qadri Hafid Tuqan. Sulaim al-Razi, always writing, teaching, reading or reciting without breaks. In Tabyin Katib al-Muftari by al-Hafid ibn Asakir and Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyya al-Wusta by Tajuddin al-Subqi, in the biography of Imam Sulaim al-Razi, one of the greatest Shafi scholars of his time, died 337 AH, may Allah have mercy on him. It was reported that Tajuddin al-Subqi wrote, He, may Allah have mercy on him, was very pious, accounting himself for time, not leaving any time to pass by without gaining some benefit, either writing, teaching or reading, and he used to write extensively. Al-Hafid ibn Asakir said that Sheikh Abul Faraj al-Asfarayini narrated that he, Sulaim, went to his house and came back, and said, I read a juz on the way. Abul Faraj said, Al-Mu'ammil ibn al-Hasan narrated to me that he saw Sulaim with his pen having lost its sharpness, and whilst he was sharpening it, he was muttering something, and I knew that he was reading at the same time, in order to not waste any time. That is, he was remembering Allah so that no time would pass by without being used in some beneficial act of worship. Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi reads whilst walking. Al-Hafid al-Dhahbi wrote in Tadkhirat al-Hufad, in the biography of Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, the scholar of Hadith, the historian of Baghdad, born 392 AH, died 463 AH, may Allah have mercy on him. Al-Khatib used to walk holding a book he was reading. That is, in order not to waste time and to make use of the time spent walking by gaining some knowledge. Imam al-Haramain eats and sleeps out of necessity, not habit. In Tabi'in Kadib al-Muftari by al-Hafid ibn Asakir and Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyya al-Kubra by Tajuddin al-Subqi, in the biography of Imam al-Haramain Abul Ma'ali Abdul Malik ibn Abdullah al-Juwayni al-Nisapuri, the Shafi scholar of fiqh and usul, the theologian and great scholar, the Sheikh of Imam Ghazali, born 419 AH, died 478 AH, may Allah have mercy on him, we find the following. Abdul Ghafur al-Farizi said in his book, Siyaq Nisapur, Imam al-Haramain, the pride of Islam, the Imam of all the Imams, the great scholar of Sharia, whose superiority is acknowledged in the East and the West, the likeness of whom no eye has seen and never will after him. I heard him say, I do not eat or sleep out of habit. I rather sleep when sleep overtakes me, whether it is day or night, and I eat when I need to, whatever time it is. He found the greatest pleasure in studying and seeking beneficial knowledge. Imam al-Haramain studies under a philologist at age 50. Sheikh Abul Hasan Ali ibn Fadl ibn Ali al-Mujash'i al-Qayrawani, the philologist, came to us in the year 469 AH and was generously received by Imam Fakhr al-Islam, who started to learn grammar and study under him. The Imam was then 50 years old, and he used to take him to his house and read to him the book of Iksir al-Dhahab fi Sina'at al-Adab, which he wrote. Abul Hasan al-Mujash'i used to say, I had never seen a lover of knowledge like this Imam. He seeks knowledge for the sake of knowledge. Yaqub al-Najirami reads whilst walking. In Inba al-Ruwat al-Anbah al-Nuhat by al-Qifti in the biography of Muhammad al-Sa'idi ibn Barakah al-Nahawi from Basra, then Egypt, born 420 AH, died 520 AH, may Allah have mercy on him, he wrote, When I was a boy, I saw Abu Yusuf Yaqub ibn Khurayza al-Najrami walking. He was a dark old man with a long beard, a round turban, and a book in his hand which he was reading as he walked. Ibn Aqil and Ibn al-Jawzi, the ultimate examples in good use of time. At the highest position in the list of those who valued time and appreciated its importance and preciousness, and who were determined to fill it with good deeds, to make use of all moments, by writing, thinking, remembering, and reminding, are the two great scholars of the Hanbali fiqh, who ranked amongst the greatest Imams of the Muslims. Imam Abul Wafa ibn Aqil al-Hanbali, the students of al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, and Imam Abul Faraj ibn al-Jawzi, his student, may Allah have mercy on him. I include here some details of their lives. Ibn Aqil, a world genius. As for Imam Abul Wafa ibn Aqil al-Hanbali, Ali ibn Aqil al-Baghdadi, Al-Hafid ibn al-Rajab al-Hanbali, in his Dail Tabaqat al-Hanabila, wrote in his biography of the former, he was born in 431 AH and died in 513 AH. He was one of the best scholars and one of the world's geniuses, of extreme intelligence and very vast and multidisciplinary in knowledge. Ibn Aqil does not waste a moment of his time. He used to say, I am not allowed to waste a moment of my life, for even if my tongue stops reading and debating, and my eyes stop reading, I can use my mind to reflect even when I am lying down. And when I get up, I do so to write something that has occurred to me, and I find that my desire to seek knowledge at the age of 80 is greater than when I was 20. Ibn Aqil chooses hard crust softened with water rather than bread to save time. And I seek to shorten my meal times as much as possible, to the extent that I choose to eat hard crust mixed with water rather than bread, because of the difference in ease of chewing, in order to save time for reading or writing something that may be of benefit. For the greatest profit made in the eyes of the wise people, by consensus of all scholars, is time, for it is a treasure in which opportunities are used, for indeed duties are numerous and times are fleeting. Sheikh Ibn al-Jawzi said, Imam Ibn Aqil was always busy seeking knowledge, searching for explanations of ambiguous issues and for the essence of things. And he made his books known as Al-Funun, the Arts, a collection of his thoughts and observations. The diversity of Ibn Aqil's disciplines and writings. He had around 20 books on different subjects, the greatest of which was Al-Funun, which is a massive book containing immense benefits in admonition, exegesis, jurisprudence, the fundamentals of jurisprudence, theology, grammar, linguistics, poetry, history, and literature. It contains his debates, observations, his thoughts, and the products of his intellectual activity. One of his books, Al-Funun, is 800 volumes long. Al-Dhahabi said, no one ever wrote a book bigger than his book. I have spoken to people who have seen over 400 volumes. Ibn Rajab said, some have said that it is 800 volumes long. The best use of time and way to draw close to Allah is seeking knowledge. He, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote in the introduction to his book Al-Funun, indeed, the best way to spend time, to keep oneself occupied and to draw closer to the Lord, glorified is He, is to seek knowledge that takes one out of the darkness of ignorance to the light of Allah's way, and that is what I kept myself occupied with and spent my time in. And I continued to comment on the words of scholars which I have learnt, from the essence of books, and from the fruit of thought emerging from debates and discussions in the circles of scholars and gatherings of pious people, hoping that some blessing may be conveyed to me, which would drive ignorance away. Perchance I may achieve some of what others before me have achieved, and even if the only immediate benefits were purifying time of being wasted in being occupied with bad habits in which the times of the ignorant masses are spent, then it would have been sufficient, and on Allah we rely for guidance, and He is sufficient and the best of those to be relied on. Ibn Aqil says before his death, "Let me delight in meeting Allah." Ibn al-Jawzi said that when Imam Abul Wafa ibn Aqil was on his deathbed, women began to cry. Abul Wafa then said, "I had signed on Allah's behalf." That is, he used to issue fatwa, clarifying the ruling of Allah on various issues and events between people, for 50 years, so leave me to delight in meeting him. This eminent Imam only left behind his books and the clothes he was wearing, which were sufficient to pay for his shroud and debts. May Allah have mercy on him and reward him for service to knowledge. Dear reader, reflect on how using one's intellect, saving time, self-discipline, and spending time on seeking knowledge and good can produce incredible results. Books that are 800 volumes long, the largest book in the world, written by one person, Abul Wafa ibn Aqil, in addition to many other books, reaching over 20 books, some of which contain 10 volumes. Little things add up to a lot, and streams add gathering of drops. There is nothing more true or beautiful than what Imam Ibn an-Nahas al-Halabi, Muhammad ibn Ibrahim, who died in 698 AH, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote, indicating that by doing a little regularly, it adds up to an immense and amazingly great amount. As in the case of Abul Wafa ibn Aqil, he wrote in the biography of As-Suyuti in Bughyath al-Wu'at, "To do a thing today and the same tomorrow, gathering is the essence of knowledge. Thus, one may achieve wisdom, for streams are but the gathering of drops." Ibn al-Jawzi's writings exceed 500 books. As for Imam Abul Faraj ibn al-Jawzi, Abdurrahman ibn Ali al-Hanbali al-Baghdadi, he was born in 508 AH and died in 597 AH. He lived for 89 years and wrote over 500 books. The necessity of knowing the importance of time and filling it with the best of occupations. Here is some of Ibn al-Jawzi's biography, in order to perceive how he was very aware of the excellence of time and its value, and how he saved time when he had visitors who lengthened their visits. He, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote in his book Sayyid al-Khatir and al-Adab al-Shari'ah of Ibn Muflih al-Hanbali. One must know the value of his time and its great importance, so that he should not waste even one moment except in worship, and should use it for the best, in order of priority, in speech and action. One's intention to seek goodness must be ever present, with no slackness, as much as the body is able to bear, for as the Sahih Hadith says, the intention of the believer is better than his action. Most people waste time in useless matters. Ibn al-Jawzi said, "I have seen the majority of people making strange use of time, spending long nights in useless talk, or reading books of ghazal, love poetry, and entertainment, and spending long days in sleep, and you would find them at the end of the day by the river Dijla or in the markets. I liken them to people chatting whilst on a ship that is moving fast, whilst they are unaware of its movement. I found that rare were those who understood the essence of existence, and it is those you find gathering their provisions and preparing for their departure. Thus, be ever conscious of the passing of time and hasten to use it before it is too late, and compete against time. Ibn al-Jawzi seeks refuge from the company of the idle. Ibn al-Jawzi said, I seek refuge from the company of the idle. I have seen many people who deal with me as they are accustomed to deal with others by repetitive visits, and they call that a service. They lengthen their sitting and talk of things that are of no concern to us, moreover, containing backbiting. This is something that many people nowadays do. Perhaps some hosts require such talk, await it, and may feel loneliness without such visits, especially on the days of festivals and Eid, when they visit one another, and are not satisfied with congratulations and greetings, but fall into what I have mentioned before, wasting their time. Pursued activities that did not hinder attending to guests. Ibn al-Jawzi said, realizing that time is the noblest of things and that using it to do good is a duty. I disliked such behaviour and remained with them torn between two things. If I condemn it, I would cause discomfort, for it would be against social customs. And if I accepted it, time would be lost. Thus, I avoided such meetings as much as possible, and in the case of such visits taking place, I spoke little to hasten the departure. I would prepare tasks that did not hinder conversation during these visits, so that time would not be lost in vain. Thus, I would, during such visits, cut paper, sharpen pencils, and bind books, for these are necessary duties which require no great presence of mind or intellect, and busied myself with such activities during their visits, in order not to waste any of my time. Only the successful realize the nobleness of time. Ibn al-Jawzi said, I saw many people who do not know the true meaning of life, for there are those who have been blessed by Allah by being rich and not needing to work, and you find them sitting in the markets most of the day looking at people, watching many an evil thing. Some of them enjoy playing chess. Others pass their time telling stories about the rulers and about the rise and fall of prices, and so on. I discovered that Allah, glorified be He, did not guide people to the realization of the nobleness of time and the importance of times of health, except the successful ones whom He blessed and guided. And no one will be granted such goodness except persons of the greatest good fortune. We ask Allah, praised and glorified be He, to guide us to know the value of time and to enable us to use it. How the Salaf conserved time and avoided wasting it. The early ones, the Salaf, used to avoid wasting time. Imam Fudail ibn Iyad said, I know people who count the words they say from one Friday to the next. Some people came to our man from the Salaf and said, we hope that we are not disturbing you. He said, to be honest, I was reading, and because of you, I had to leave it. An ascetic came to As-Sari al-Saqati and found a group of people with him and said, you have become the meeting place of the idle. He left and did not sit down. If the host is too soft, the visitor would wish to lengthen the visit further, and the host would thus be harmed. There was once a group of people sitting with Maruf al-Karhi when their stay became too long. He said, the angel of the sun will not tire of leading it. When do you intend to leave? Glorious examples of good use of time by the Salaf. Some of the Salaf would use every moment of their time. Dawood Atai used to eat breadcrumbs, and he used to say, The difference between eating crumbs and chewing bread is the reading of 50 verses. Uthman al-Baqillani was always remembering Allah, and he said, "At meal times, I feel as if my soul is about to leave my body, because eating keeps me away from dhikr." One of the Salaf advised his companions, "When you leave my house, go separately. Thus, one of you may read Quran on his way, whilst, when you go together, you would be chatting. Know that time is too valuable to have even one moment wasted, for in the Sahih Hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, 'Whoever says, Glory be to God, the Magnificent, and praise be to Him, Subhanallah al-Azim wa bihamdi, will have a palm tree planted for him in paradise.' How many hours does one waste, thus missing abundant reward? These days are like a farm. Is it then wise for one to stop planting seeds, or to slacken in doing so?" Things that help to conserve time. Among the things that help one to profit from time: solitude as much as possible, keeping to greeting and necessary talk with those one meets, and eating little, for excessive eating causes one to sleep for long hours and waste the night hours. Whoever looks into the lives of the Salaf and believes in reward will realize the truth of what I have mentioned. The great resolve of the scholars of the Salaf and the excellence of their writings. The determination and self-discipline of the early scholars were high, which is reflected in their writings, which were the essence of their lives, despite the fact that most of their writings have been lost. This is because the ambition and determination of students has weakened, such that when they become only interested in summaries and were not motivated to write lengthy works, and they moreover became content with studying a few books, leading to the loss of many books that were not copied. The path to be followed by the student of knowledge seeking perfection is to read the various books, and he should read much, for thus he would be inspired and stimulated by the knowledge of scholars and their great feats, which would motivate him to undertake arduous work. Moreover, no book is devoid of some benefit to be acquired from it. I seek refuge from the lives of these contemporary people, in whom we see no high aspiration to inspire beginners, nor any great piety to inspire ascetics. I admonish you to study the biographies of those before you and to read their writings, for reading their books is like seeing them, as it is said, "I cannot see those homes with my eye. Perhaps I may see these homes with my hearing." Ibn al-Jawzi's thirst for knowledge and attachment to books. Ibn al-Jawzi said, "If I were to describe my state, then I am never content with reading books. And when I see a book that I had not seen before, it is as if I have found a treasure. I looked at the catalogue of books at the Madrasa al-Nazamiyah, and it contained around 6,000 books. I also looked at the index of the writings of Abu Hanifa, the books of al-Humaydi, Muhammad ibn Fattah al-Andalusi al-Baghdadi, the companion of Ibn Hazm, and the books of our Sheikh Abdul al-Anmati, those of Ibn Nasir, the books of Abu Muhammad al-Khashab, which were numerous, and other books which I was able to read. And if I said that I read 20,000 books, then in truth it would be more, and I was then still a student. I benefited from reading those books by observing the lives of the early people, and the extent of their memorization, their determination, their worship, the diversity of their disciples, of which one would not know had one not read those books. Thus I disliked the current state of people, and looked down on the weak determination of students nowadays, and to Allah is all praise. Every soul is a container, so let not your container be empty. Imam Ibn al-Jawzi, may Allah have mercy on him, also said in his gentle letter of advice to his son, called Laftat al-Kabid fin Nasihat al-Walad, urging his son to preserve his time. Know, dear son, that days are but hours, and hours are but breaths, and every soul is a container. Hence, let not any breath pass without any benefit, such that on the day of judgment you find an empty container and feel regret. Be aware of every hour and how it passes, and only spend it in the best possible way. Do not neglect yourself, but render it accustomed to the noblest and best of actions, and send to your grave that which will please you when you arrive to it. Ibn al-Jawzi writes 4 notebooks every day. Al-Hafid ibn Rajab wrote in Dhail Tabaqat al-Hanabila in his biography of Ibn al-Jawzi. He did not leave any discipline without writing a book in it. When asked about the number of his writings, he said, more than 340 books, some of which contain 20 volumes, while some are only 1 notebook long. Al-Muwafiq Abdul Latif said, Ibn al-Jawzi wasted no time. He used to write 4 notebooks every day, and wrote every year between 50 to 60 volumes. Ibn al-Jawzi wrote 2,000 volumes by hand. Al-Dhahabi in Tadkhirat al-Hufad and Ibn Rajab in Al-Dayl reported that Abul Musafir, the grandson of Ibn al-Jawzi, said, I heard my grandfather saying whilst on the pulpit towards the end of his life, I wrote with these 2 fingers of mine 2,000 volumes. Ibn al-Wardi wrote in Tatimat al-Muqtasir fi Akbar al-Bashar, it is reported that the books written by Abul Faraj Ibn al-Jawzi were collected, and then the number of days he lived were calculated, and the number of books was divided by his lifetime, and it was concluded that he wrote 9 notebooks every day. The pencil shavings of Ibn al-Jawzi used to heat water for washing his body in preparation for his funeral. Al-Qummi wrote in Al-Kuna wal-Alqab, the shavings of Ibn al-Jawzi's pencils with which he wrote hadith were gathered, and came to a large amount. He had requested that they be used to heat the water with which his body would be washed after his death, and so it was done, and they were more than sufficient. Ustad Abdul Hamid al-Alwaji of Iraq had written a book entitled Mu'allafat Ibn al-Jawzi, which was published by the Iraqi Ministry of Culture and Guidance in the year 1385 AH, in which he enumerated Ibn al-Jawzi's books, which came to 519, varying in size from large 10-volume books to small booklets, and he missed some of his writings. Ibn Taymiyyah said the writings of Ibn al-Jawzi exceed 1,000. In the introduction to Mu'allafat Ibn al-Jawzi, Al-Alwaji wrote, Al-Hafid Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali wrote in Tahil Tabaqat al-Hanabila that Imam Ibn Taymiyyah said in his Al-Ajwibah al-Misriyah, Sheikh Abul Faraj Ibn al-Jawzi wrote many books on many issues. I had enumerated them and found them to be over 1,000 books, and later I saw others I had not included. Al-Dhahabi on the size of Ibn al-Jawzi's works. Al-Dhahabi wrote in Tadkhirat al-Hufad after mentioning a number of Imam Ibn al-Jawzi's writings, I had not heard of any scholar who wrote as much as this man. Then he reported the saying of Al-Muwafiq Abdul Latif about Ibn al-Jawzi. He wasted nothing from time. He used to write 4 notebooks daily, in addition to his duties of teaching, compilation and issuing fatwas, and he has made a contribution in every fold of learning. Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi's Management of Time. It is written in Tadkhirat al-Hufad in the biography of Al-Hafid Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi, born 541 AH, died 600 AH, may Allah have mercy on him, that's the Imam, scholar of Hadith, Taqiyuddin Abu Muhammad Abdul Ghani ibn Abdul Wahid al-Maqdisi al-Jamari, later al-Damashqi al-Zalehi al-Hanbali, wrote 1,000 books, according to Abu Tahir as-Salafi. He wrote an innumerable number of books, and he continued to write, narrate, and worship Allah until his death. Al-Diya al-Maqdisi, his student, said that his teacher wasted none of his time. He used to pray Fajr, then teach Quran, and perhaps he would also teach Hadith. Then he would make ablution and pray 300 rakat with Al-Fatiha and Surat Al-Falaq and Surat Al-Nas until just before the time of Dhuhr. Then he would sleep for a short time, then pray Dhuhr, after which he would teach or write until Maghrib. He would then break his fast if he had been fasting, then pray Isha, and sleep till midnight or a little later. Then he would make ablution and pray, and repeat that until just before Fajr. He would make ablution 7 times or more. He used to say, "I like to pray as long as my body is still humid." Then he would sleep for a short time until Fajr, and that was his schedule. He left behind over 40 books, including some precious gems. See his rich biography in Dhahil Tabaqat al-Hanabila of Ibn Rajab. Al-Fakhr al-Razi regrets the time spent eating. The historian and doctor Ibn Abu Usaybiyah wrote in his book Uyun al-Anba fil Tabaqat al-Aqtiba, in the biography of Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi, the scholar of Tafsir, Usul and Theology, Muhammad ibn Omar, born in 543, died 606 at the age of 63. May Allah have mercy on him. Author of over 200 books, varying in size from a 32-volume book such as his famous Tafsir to short treatises. Judge Shamsuddin al-Khawi related to us regarding Sheikh Fakhruddin that he said, "By Allah, indeed I regret spending time that could be spent seeking knowledge in eating, for indeed time is precious." Ibn Suqayna's conservation of time and its use in good deeds. Narrator and historian Ibn al-Najir wrote in Dakhil Tariq, Baghdad, and Ad-Dahabi in Siyar al-Am al-Nubala in their biographies of Ibn Suqayna. The Sheikh, Imam, scholar of fiqh, and trustworthy narrator of hadith, the great example, the scholar of Islam and pride of Iraq, Dhiya al-Din Abu Ahmed Abdul Wahhab ibn Ali ibn Suqayna al-Baghdadi al-Sufi al-Shafi, born 519 AH, died 607 AH. He was the greatest scholar of his time in excellence of narration, knowledge, perfection, asceticism, worship, and good character, following the sunnah and the way of the pious predecessors. Allah blessed him with a long life until he repeated all his narrations many times. He was sought by students of knowledge from all countries. His times were preserved, his words counted. Not a single hour passed without recitation of the Quran, dhikr, tahajjud, or teaching. He would forbid people from unnecessary and unbeneficial talk or backbiting in his gathering. He left his house only to attend congregational prayer, Eid, or funerals, and did not attend the common gatherings of the people. His student Ibn al-Najir said, "I travelled in the east and the west and saw scholars, imams, and ascetics, yet saw no one who reached higher perfection, was more devoted to worship, or had better character than him. I accompanied him for 20 years, night and day, and heard most of his narrations, and studied long works under him, and benefited greatly from him." Ibn Suqayna advises his students, "Do not say more than Salam Alaikum." Yahya ibn al-Qasim, the teacher at An-Nizamiyah, said that Ibn Suqayna was exemplary in knowledge and action. He wasted no time. When we entered his gathering, he would say, "Do not add more than Salam Alaikum," out of concern and desire to use time for discussing and approving rulings. Al-Madrasa al-Nazamiyah was the most prestigious school in Baghdad at the time. How amazing indeed! He asks them to shorten the greeting and not to waste time with the usual compliments when people meet, and orders them to begin study and discussion after the first greeting in order to save time. Ibn Taymiyyah al-Jad, the grandfather. Among those who sought to save time through unexpected ways was Imam Ibn Taymiyyah al-Jad, Abul Barakah, Abdul Salam ibn Abdullah ibn Taymiyyah al-Harani al-Hanbali, born 590 AH, died 653 AH. May Allah have mercy on him. Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali wrote in Dahil Tabaqat al-Hanabila in his biography, the Imam, reciter, scholar of fiqh, hadith, tafsir, usul, philology, the Sheikh of Islam and faqih of his time, the prominent figure of his time, our Sheikh Abu Abdullah ibn al-Qayyim said, the brother of our Sheikh Abdul Rahman ibn Abdul Halim ibn Taymiyyah narrated that his father said, before the grandfather, Majduddin Abul Barakah, would go to the restroom, he would say, read this book for me and raise your voice so I may hear you. This indicates his great desire to seek and attain knowledge and save his time. Al-Hafid al-Mundari copied 90 books and 700 volumes by hand, other than his own writings. Imam Nawawi, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote at the end of his book, Bustan al-Arifin, about the qualities of some of the great prominent scholars under the chapter of Fi Hikayat Mustatrafa. He mentioned something he heard from his Sheikh about his Sheikh, Imam al-Hafid Abdul Azim al-Mundari, born in Cairo in 581 AH, died there in 656 AH. May Allah have mercy on him. He said, I heard our Sheikh and Master, the great Imam, noble Master, trustworthy Hafid, rigorous, precise scholar, pious, virtuous, ascetic, mujtahid, worshipper, one of the rare remaining trustworthy scholars of Hadith, the Mufti, Sheikh of the Imams and Muhaddithin, Thiya al-Din, Abu Ishaq Ibrahim ibn Isa al-Muradi, saying, on Wednesday, the 6th of Shawwal of the year 658 AH, at the Madrasa al-Badariya in Damascus, may Allah protect it, I heard Sheikh Abdul Azim, may Allah have mercy on him, say, I scribed with my hand 90 books and 700 volumes. This was what was authored by other scholars on the science of Hadith. In addition to this, he wrote many more of his own works. Al-Hafid al-Mundari occupied by knowledge at mealtimes. Our Sheikh said, I have not seen or heard of anyone striving harder to seek knowledge. He was ever busy with them, by night and day. He said, moreover, I was his neighbour at the Madrasa in Cairo. My house was above his for 12 years, and I never woke up during any night or any hour of the night without seeing the light of his lamp in his house whilst he was studying. And even during the time of eating, he was still busy with his books. Al-Hafid al-Mundari only left the Madrasa to offer congratulations or condolences. He also mentioned of his rigorous study and conscientious research and verification, that which I am incapable of describing. He said, he would only leave the school to offer condolences or congratulations, or for an important occasion, and for nothing else, except for Jummah prayers, and would use all of his time for knowledge. May Allah be pleased with him, and with our parents, and all the Muslims. A dear son of Al-Hafid al-Mundari dies, and he follows his funeral to the door of the Madrasa. Imam Tajuddin as-Subki wrote in Tabaqat al-Shafiyah al-Kubra in the biography of Al-Hafid al-Mundari. He later taught at Dar al-Hadith al-Kamaliyah, and he would only leave it to go to Jummah prayer. He even had an intelligent, pious son who was a muhaddith, Rashiduddin Abu Bakr Muhammad, who died in 643 after Hijrah, and was one of the prominent gifted scholars of Hadith who died during his lifetime. The Sheikh led his funeral prayer inside the school, and followed his funeral procession to the door. Then his eyes overflew with tears, and he said, I entrust you to Allah, O my son. He left him, without leaving the school. Ibn Malik was always praying, reciting, writing, or reading. Of the prominent Imams who used all moments of their time, even on their deathbeds, while leaving this life, remaining attached to seeking knowledge till the last moments before death, was Imam Ibn Malik al-Nahwi, author of Al-Alfiyah and other prominent books of philology. Muhammad ibn Abdullah, born in 600 AH, died in 672 AH, may Allah have mercy on him. In his biography in Naf Atib al-Maqari wrote, Ibn Malik, Allah have mercy on him, read vicariously and was quick in his revision and verification. He would only write something in his book after verifying its origin, as is the case of the trustworthy great scholars. He was only seen praying, reciting, writing, or reading. It was related that he went once with his friends to visit Damascus, and when they arrived at their destination, they forgot about him for some time. When they looked for him, they could not find him, until they finally found him reading some books. Ibn Malik memorizes 8 verses of poetry before his death. Even more astounding in his great attachment to knowledge is that he memorized some poetry, about 8 verses his son taught him, on the day of his death. This shows that one achieves according to one's aspirations and determination. May Allah reward him greatly for this undying determination. He died in Damascus in 672 after Hijrah, and was buried near the mountain of Qasiyun. His grave is still well known there, may Allah have mercy on him. Imam an-Nawawi did not lie down for 2 years. Al-Hafid al-Dhahabi wrote in Tadkhirat al-Hufad, in the biography of Imam Nawawi, Yahya ibn Sharaf al-Harwani. He is the unique Imam and scholar of Hadith, the master, Sheikh al-Islam, master of the pious ones. Muhyiddin Abu Zakaria Yahya ibn Sharafuddin ibn Muri al-Hizami al-Hawrani al-Shafi, the author of many beneficial books. He was born in 631 AH in Nawa, Hawran, came to Damascus in 649 AH, and lived at Madrasa al-Rawahiyah, eating its bread. He said, and I remained for 2 years without my side touching the ground. He memorized Al-Tambi in 4.5 months, and read a quarter of Al-Muhaddab in the remaining months of the year, under his Sheikh Ishaq ibn Ahmed. And Nawawi studies 12 lessons daily with verification and commentary. And Dhahabi also said that his student, Abul Hasan ibn al-Atir, said that Sheikh Muhyiddin mentioned to him every day. He used to study 12 lessons under his shuyukh, covering the explanation and correction. 2 lessons from Awasit in the science of fiqh, a lesson from Al-Muhaddab, also in fiqh, a lesson on combining the 2 Sahihs in the science of hadith, a lesson on Sahih Muslim, a lesson on Al-Lumma by Ibn Jinni on Arabic grammar, a lesson from Islah al-Mantiq on linguistics, a lesson on conjugation, a lesson in Usul al-Fiqh, sometimes from Al-Lumma of Abu Ishaq, and sometimes from Al-Muntakhab of Fakhr-ud-Din al-Razi, a lesson on Asma al-Rijal, a lesson on Usul al-Din, and a lesson on philology. He said, I used to note everything related to the lessons, explaining what is obscure, clarifying any ambiguous expressions, correcting the language, and Allah blessed my time. And Nawawi used to eat 1 meal every day and night. Abul Hasan ibn al-Attar said, Our Sheikh, may Allah have mercy on him, said that he never wasted time, whether by night or day, except in seeking knowledge, and even when he was outside, he would always be either repeating what he learnt or reading. He did that for 6 years, after which he started to write, teach, offer advice, and benefit others. He used to eat only once every day and night. Once after the last Isha prayer, and drank only once before Fajr, and did not eat fruit and vegetables, and said, I fear that it will soften my body and make me sleepy. Furthermore, he did not marry. An-Nawawi's asceticism and harsh clothing, food, and living. He dedicated himself to knowledge, writing and spreading knowledge, and to worship, litanies, fasting, and remembrance, bearing harsh living conditions in eating and clothing as a permanent state, wearing a plain robe and a small turban. He died in 676 after Hijrah. May Allah have mercy on him, having lived 45 years, leaving behind many great writings, which, if divided by the number of days he lived, they would come to 4 notebooks every day. Physician Ibn al-Nafis, a pioneer in medicine, fiqh, and time management. Of the eminent scholars and prominent brilliant physicians who used every moment of their time recording thoughts and observations at the strangest of times, is the pioneer of medicine in his time, Ibn al-Nafis of Damascus, then Egypt. From his biography in Rawdat al-Jannat by al-Khawanisari, quoting al-Wafi bil-Wafayyat by Salahuddin al-Sadafi, we quote the following. He is the noble wise Imam, the scholar Alauddin ibn al-Nafis Ali ibn Abi Hazim al-Qarshi, from the town of Qarsh, who was born in Damascus around the year 610 after Hijrah, died in Cairo in 687 after Hijrah. May Allah have mercy on him. He was a pioneer in the science of medicine, of neither equal nor comparable intelligence. He wrote unique and marvelous books on medicine, including Ash-Shamil in medicine, the index of which indicates that it consists of 300 volumes, as mentioned by some of his companions, of which he finished 80. He wrote Al-Muhaddab fil Kuhl and Sharh Qanun ibn Sina in many volumes, and other books on medicine. He was well versed in logic and wrote a short treatise on it, and wrote a commentary of Ibn Sina's Al-Hidayah, which is a book on logic. He also wrote on the science of Usul al-Fiqh, Fiqh, Arabic language, Hadith, literature, and others. He wrote a good commentary on part of Al-Tanbih by Abu Ishaq al-Shirazi on the branches of Shafi'ah from its beginning to the chapter on Sahw, and he taught fiqh at Al-Madrasa al-Masruriyah in Cairo. Imam Burhanuddin Ibrahim al-Rashidi said that when Al-Ali ibn al-Nafis intended to write, sharpened pencils would be brought for him, and he would sit facing the wall, and began to write his thoughts directly, just like a flowing river. When the pencil would lose its sharpness, he would throw it and pick up another one, without wasting time sharpening it. He used to write directly, without revision. Ibn al-Nafis and Ibn Wasil discussing till Fajr. As-Sadid al-Dumyati, one of his students in Cairo, said, Ibn al-Nafis met one night with Judge Jamaluddin ibn Wasil, and I was spending the night there. When they finished the last Isha prayer, they began their discussion, moving from one science to another, and Sheikh Alauddin was discussing calmly, without any unease, whilst Qadi Jamaluddin would become tense, his voice would rise, his eyes would redden, and his veins would dilate. They remained like this until dawn. When they finished, Qadi Jamaluddin said, O Sheikh Alauddin, as for us, we have legal matters and rules, whilst you have the treasures of all sciences. Ibn al-Nafis records some medical chapters whilst bathing. Another said, Sheikh Alauddin entered the bath in Bab al-Zahumma, and in the middle of his bath he came out to the area where one left one's clothes, and asked for a pen, ink, and paper, and started writing a paper until he finished it. Then he went back inside and finished his bath. He was a generous man, never keeping from benefiting others whether by day or night. A number of princes, as well as Muhaddab ibn Abi Hulayqa, the chief doctor, Sharafuddin al-Saghir, the most prominent physician, and people from various classes used to attend his gatherings at his house. Under his authority and that of Imad ad-Din al-Nabulsi, physicians graduated in Egypt and in Cairo, where he had built a house. During his last illness, after which he died, some of his fellow physicians advised him to drink some wine, holding that his illness would be cured by it. But he refused to drink any and said, "I will not meet Allah with some wine inside me." He did not marry. He left his house, his books, and wealth as an endowment for the Mansouri hospital. Ibn Nafis discovered the circulatory system 7 centuries ago. To summarize, he was a great Imam, and many eminent scholars said that he was the second Ibn Sina. One must not forget that Ibn Nafis is the one who discovered the blood circulatory system 7 centuries ago, a great discovery in the field of medicine. Despite his eminence and unique genius in medicine, as well as other sciences, he was humble, describing himself to his students and graduates as al-Mutatabib, the one who seeks or claims to be a physician, while he was the pioneer of medicine in his age, as seen in an example of his beautiful writing, a copy of which is shown in his biography of al-Zarqali's book Al-Alam. Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah left innumerable writings thanks to his good time management. Even more remarkable is the example of Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah Abul Abbas Ahmed ibn Abdul Halim al-Harani al-Dimashqi al-Hanbali, born 661, died 728, may Allah have mercy on him, at the age of 57, leaving around 500 written volumes. He could not have written hundreds of books, such that neither his companions nor even the Sheikh himself could count them, without complete use of his time in learning, writing, and worship. In his biography by Ibn Shakir al-Qutbi in Fawat al-Wafiyat, his writings reached 300 volumes. Al-Dhahabi said, "It is not unlikely that his writings up to this day reach 500 volumes. His student Imam Ibn al-Qayyim wrote a treatise on the names of his books, which was 22 pages long, in which he mentioned 350 writings, varying from large books to short treatises. Sheikh Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy on him, said in his book Al-Wabil al-Sayyib min al-Kalam al-Tayyib, the 61st benefit from dhikr, it gives one's memory strength, such that with dhikr one can achieve things one did not imagine being able to achieve. And I witnessed of the strength of Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah in his speech, in his habits, in his courage, and in his writing, an amazing ability. He used to write in one day what one would copy in a week or longer." Regarding the number of Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah's writings, we follow what Al-Hafidh Ibn Rajab wrote in Dahil Tabaqat al-Hanabila. As for his writings, they have filled the lands and surpassed the limit of counting, such that no one can enumerate them. Dear reader, such is the effect of the effort of a single person in using his time. Those who know him hold that his writings are innumerable. Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah reads and teaches during illness and travel. The reason behind this astounding richness in writing is that Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on him, never stopped reading and discussing knowledge and teaching it. Whether in residence or travel, in health or illness. His student Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote in his book Rawdat al-Muhibbin, our Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah related to us, "I had an illness and the doctor said to me, 'Your reading and discussion will make your illness worse.' I replied, 'I cannot bear to stop that, and I consult your knowledge. Is it not the case that when the soul is pleased and happy, the body finds strength and can resist illness?' He said, 'Indeed.' Then I said to him, 'My soul finds happiness in knowledge, so my body finds strength, and I feel better.' He said, 'That is beyond our treatment.'" Ash-Shams al-Asbahani eats little to save time. Al-Hafid ibn Hajar wrote in Ad-Durar al-Kamina and Al-Shawkani in Al-Badr al-Tali in the biography of the scholar Imam Shamsuddin Abul Thana al-Asbahani, Mahmud ibn Abdurrahman ibn Ahmed, the Shafi scholar of fiqh, usul and tafsir, born in Isfahan in 674 after Hijrah, died in Cairo in 749 after Hijrah, may Allah have mercy on him, the following. He studied in his homeland, became well versed and excelled in all sciences. Then he came to Damascus after a visit to Al-Quds in Safar 725 AH, where his virtues and knowledge astounded its people. Sheikh Taqiyuddin ibn Taymiyyah heard him and honoured him greatly. He once said, "Be silent, so that we may listen to the speech of this noble man, the likes of whom never entered this land." Then he moved to Cairo, where he died. He was known for his attachment to knowledge and extreme reluctance to waste any of his time, to the extent that some of his companions related that he deprived himself of eating, so that he would not need to drink, and hence would not need to relieve himself in order to save time. Reflect on the value of time in the eyes of this noble Imam, as a result of the value of knowledge. Ash-Shawqani's lessons reached 13 lessons every day. Scholar and judge Ash-Shawqani, Muhammad ibn Ali, the scholar of tafsir, hadith, fiqh and usul, the well-known author, born 1173 AH in the town of Shawqan in Yemen, died 1250 AH, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote in his autobiography in his book Al-Badr al-Tali, talking about his childhood and education using the third person in humility. And his lessons reached 13 every day and night. Some were lessons he attended by his shuyukh, and some he would teach his students, and he continued in that way for a period of time. Then he devoted himself to teaching, whereby his students would attend over 10 lessons by him every day in many sciences, including tafsir, hadith, usul, grammar, philology, exegesis, tafsir, eloquence, logic, fiqh, philosophy and poetry. At the same time as he was learning from his shayukh and teaching his students, he was also answering fatwa inquiries from the people of Sana'a and other towns for 20 years. He was then appointed judge of Sana'a in 1229 AH for 20 years until his death. He died, may Allah have mercy on him, having written 114 books, many of which he mentioned in his autobiography. Al-Alusi wrote his tafsir by night while he taught 13 lessons daily. The Imam and Mufassir Al-Alusi, Abul Thana Shihab ad-Din Mahmud ibn Abdullahi al-Alusi, the Mufti of Baghdad and the seal of the Mufassirin. He was born in 1217 AH and died in 1270 AH. May Allah have mercy on him. He was anxious to ensure his knowledge increased every moment. He did not tire of gaining beneficial knowledge, searching for hidden rarities. His day was spent addressing fatwa inquiries and teaching the early part of the night in conversing with friends and visitors, and the end of his nights on writing pages of his tafsir, which he would give in the morning to the scribes he employed, who would take 10 hours to edit and copy them. He would teach 14 lessons daily, while during those days, when he would be occupied with his tafsir and fatwa inquiries, he would teach 13 lessons from long books, and he continued to write even during his final illness. His tafsir is a rare marvel among the books of tafsir, and it is sufficient to bestow prominence, excellence and knowledge on his legacy. He had written it by night, as mentioned above, and it has been said, "And make the most of the night time for your wishes, for night time is the day of the shrewd ones." The Imam and author Abul Hilal al-Askari said, "One who stays up by night for some need is in fact at rest, and one who spends his money in a good cause is in fact gaining it." Al-Thaqazi al-Hamasi said, "You will be as if you lost not one night, if in the end you achieved that which you sought." Ibn Nubata al-Sadi said, "You who reproach me for exhausting myself and enduring sleeplessness in the darkness of night, If a man aspires to the highest summits, then the least of losses will be good sleep. Another poet said, he loved the depth of night neglected by the heedless, as if the shooting stars of the night were beautiful eyes. Abdul Hayy al-Luqnawi died at 39, his books exceeding 110. We need not go far back in time. Imam Abdul Hayy al-Luqnawi of India, who died around 100 years ago, in 1304 AH, at the age of 39, wrote over 110 books, varying in size from large volumes to short treatises, all dealing with beneficial issues and difficult problems. The sage of the Ummah, al-Fanawi's writings exceeded 1,000. The Sheikh of India, Maulana, the sage of the Ummah, Ashraf Ali al-Fanawi, who died around 40 years ago in 1362, aged 81, had written over 1,000 books. That is the bounty of Allah which He bestows on whom He wills. That was achieved thanks to preservation and use of good time. Indeed, those who know the value of time are the rare successful ones who compose great volumes of work in their short lives. Writings of the early scholars show their conservation of time. Here I shall mention what our Sheikh and scholar, Muhammad Zahid al-Kawthari, may Allah have mercy on him, said concerning a number of the most famous and voluminous tafsirs of the Quran, the length and quality of which indicate their writers' great dedication to knowledge and their good use of time, which allowed them to write such books, about which one is amazed to hear, let alone read. Some of the great voluminous books of the early scholars in tafsir and its sciences. Our Sheikh wrote in his book Maqalat al-Kawthari regarding some ways of rendering service to the Holy Quran. What has been written by the people of knowledge in revealing the precious meanings of the Holy Quran cannot be enumerated from their different perspectives in their emphasis of narration or interpretation, and the various arts and sciences of the Quran, with their different approaches and backgrounds in emphasizing a particular aspect of the marvels of the Holy Quran. I ask of the honourable readers to allow me to mention some writings of the scholars of this Ummah in this context as an example of their great efforts in writing such books. The tafsir of Imam Abul Hasan al-Ash'ari, known as Al-Mukhtazan, is 70 volumes long, according to Al-Maqrizi's Al-Khitat, while the tafsir of Qadi Abdul Jabbar al-Hamadani, known as Al-Muhid, is 100 volumes long. The tafsir of Abu Yusuf Abdus Salam al-Qazwini, known as Hada'iq Fattah Bahjah, was at least 300 volumes long. Its author had made it an endowment and chose its headquarters to be the mosque of Imam Abu Hanifa in Baghdad, and later it was amongst the books lost during the Mongol invasion of Baghdad. However, I heard from one of the scholars of India that he saw part of it in the catalogue of one of the libraries. Al-Hafid ibn Shahin has a tafsir by Yusuf Hadith, which is 1,000 volumes long. Al-Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi has a tafsir entitled Anwar al-Fajr, which is around 80,000 pages, and it is known to exist in our lands, that is, the libraries of Istanbul and Turkey, but I have not succeeded in finding it, despite my long search for it. Ibn al-Naqib al-Maqdisi, one of the shuyukh of Abu Hayyan, had a tafsir which was around 100 volumes long, some of which can be found in the libraries of Istanbul. As for the largest tafsir to be found today, as far as we know, it is the tafsir of Fathul Manan, attributed to the scholar Qutbuddin al-Shirazi, which is 40 volumes long. The first of which is found in Dar al-Qutb in Egypt, in which one finds his plan for the tafsir, and in the libraries of Muhammad Asad and Ali Basha Hakim Oghli in Istanbul, one finds other volumes which make up one complete edition. The scholar Muhammad al-Zahid al-Bukhari wrote around 100 volumes of tafsir, as well as Manhal al-Safi, The scholars of this ummah wrote innumerable tafsir beside the aforementioned ones. From various perspectives, they had also rendered a similar service in compiling the nations which explain the Quran and clarifying the details of general issues contained within it. The scholars who wrote profusely. The scholar of fiqh and usul, the researcher Muhammad al-Hassan of Morocco, may Allah have mercy on him, in his amazing book Al-Fikr al-Sami fi Tariq al-Fiqh al-Islami, in the biography of Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, wrote about the prolific authors, mentioning Ibn Jarir, Ibn al-Jawzi, and others. I quote from him what he wrote here, some of which will repeat what has already been said. Ibn Jarir, the greatest author of Islam in terms of the quantity and quality of his writings. Muhammad al-Hassan said that Ibn Jarir achieved excellence, writing abundantly, but with perfection, with wide benefits. He left behind over 350,000 pages of writing. This is the richest academic heritage left as far as we know. So may Allah, the best of creators, be glorified. Thus, he earned an elevated position, and none of the early scholars attained the extent of his writing combined with perfection in quality and benefit achieved until this day. Those qualities were not found together in any other scholar, such that it may be said that he is the greatest author of Islam. Al-Baqilani does not sleep until writing 35 pages. In Al-Dibaj al-Mudahab, it is written that Qadi Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn al-Tayyib al-Baqilani prayed 40 rakat every night and would not sleep until writing 35 pages from memory. The numerous works of Ibn Abul Dunya, Abu Asakir and Ibn Shaheen. Ibn Abul Dunya left behind 1,000 writings. Ibn Asakir wrote in his Tariq in 80 volumes. As-Suyuti said the most profuse author was Ibn Shaheen, who wrote 330 books, including his Tafsir, composed of 1,000 volumes, and Al-Musnad of 1,500 volumes. As-Suyuti said, and this is from among the blessings of contracting time like space, from the heritage of Al-Isra and Laylat al-Qadr, reported in Al-Minah al-Bidayah. The numerous works of Ibn Hazim and Ibn Abu Hatim al-Razi. Imam Abu Muhammad Ali ibn Hazim left behind 400 volumes of writing comprising around 80,000 pages. Imam Abu Muhammad Abdurrahman ibn Abu Hatim al-Razi wrote many books in fiqh, hadith and history, including his book Al-Musnad comprising 1,000 volumes, which he mentioned in At-Tabaqat al-Subqiyah. The numerous works of Al-Hakim al-Nisapuri. Abu Abdullah al-Hakim, known as Ibn al-Bayyi, the author of Al-Mustadrak ala al-Sahihayn, wrote around 1,500 volumes, including Takhrij al-Sahihayn, Al-Ilal, Al-Amali, Fawaid al-Shuyukh, Tarikh Nisapur, and others. The numerous works of Abul Hasan al-Ashari. The writings of Imam Abul Hasan al-Ashari reached 50 books of various sizes, mostly on discrediting deviant trends and sects, which is among the most difficult and time-consuming subjects. The numerous works of Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim, and al-Bayhaqi. Taqi al-Din Ibn Taymiyyah wrote 300 books in diverse fields, reaching around 500 volumes. His student Ibn al-Qayyim wrote around 50 volumes of various sizes. Imam al-Bayhaqi wrote 1,000 volumes, all original, beneficial and unparalleled, and he fasted for 30 years. The numerous works of Muhammad ibn Suhnun al-Maliki. Muhammad ibn Suhnun, the famous Tunisian scholar, left behind his great tome of 100 volumes in fiqh, biographies, history, and other sciences, as well as Ahkam al-Quran and others. The numerous works of Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi al-Ma'arifi. Imam Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi al-Ma'arifi, buried in Fez, wrote his voluminous tafsir in 80 volumes, as well as other books including commentaries on al-Timridi's hadith compilation, al-Muwatta, and Ahkam al-Quran, as well as al-Qawasim wal-Awasim and al-Mahsul fil Usul, all unique books of extraordinary quality. The numerous works of Abu Ja'far at-Tahawi. Imam Abu Ja'far at-Tahawi wrote many books and wrote 1,000 pages on one question: whether the pilgrimage of the Prophet ﷺ was Qiran, Ifrad, or Tamattu. And this is in no way unique among the scholars of Islam. The numerous works of Abu Ubaidah, Ibn Surayj, and Ibn Habib al-Andalusi. The writings of Abu Ubaidah Ma'mar ibn al-Muthana reached 200 in various sciences. The writings of Ibn Surayj reached 400. The writings of Abdul Malik ibn Habib, the scholar of Al-Andalus, reached 1,000 books, mentioned in Naf at-Tib. The voluminous works of some of the early scholars. Their writings comprised many volumes. The book of Ibn al-Jawzi's grandson, Mirat as-Saman, in history is in 40 volumes. Tarikh Baghdad of al-Khatib was 14 volumes long. Al-Aghani 20 volumes long, while Al-Kamil of Ibn al-Athir was made of 12 volumes. Sharh al-Nabat of Abu Hanifa al-Dinawari was 60 volumes long, and the writings of Yaqub ibn Ishaq al-Kindi, known as the philosopher of the Arabs, reached 231 books, and in fact exceeded 300 books in philosophy, medicine, engineering, and many other sciences. However, they varied in length from 10 to hundreds of pages, bearing in mind the difficulty of obtaining writing material in their times. The numerous works of some of the later scholars are not equivalent to the early ones. As for the later scholars, writing materials more accessible to them, yet they did not reach the level of their predecessors, such as Al-Hafid ibn al-Hajr, author of Fattah Bari, Al-Isabah, and others. Al-Dhahabi or As-Sayuti, whose writing exceeded 400, but most of them were of shorter length, down to a page or two. Another scholar, whose writings were even more numerous, was Sheikh Abdul Muhibbuddin Murtada al-Husayni al-Wasiti al-Zabidi al-Hanafi, who was born and brought up in India and lived in Egypt. Sufficient are Shar al-Qamus and Shar al-Ihya as proof of that, two widely beneficial books which were popular in the Muslim world, of high quality and meticulous care. That was a quick note regarding those who wrote profusely, as narrated by scholar Al-Hajawi, may Allah have mercy on him, written in the context of his mentioning the numerous writings of Imam Ibn Jarir at-Tabari. Conserving one's time lengthens one's lifetime and enriches one's legacy. What incited me to include that was my wish to explain how the immense flow and abundant amazing books was written and how they were gathered. It was all thanks to the valuing time, conserving it and managing it without losing an hour or a moment. For through good time management, one's legacy grows and prospers, and one's lifetime is prolonged, and short times and lives are blessed by Allah, who bestows his bounty on whomever he wills, and he is the owner of mighty grace. I conclude this section on scholars who valued their time, making use of every moment, benefiting and producing the sweetest of fruits of knowledge, by including a brief biography of Al-Hafid Abul Qasim ibn Asakir al-Damashqi, for it would motivate one's determination and wake up the heedless. The immensity of Al-Hafid ibn Asakir's contribution to Islamic literature. Al-Hafid Abul Qasim ibn Asakir al-Damashqi, Ali ibn al-Hasan, born in Damascus in 499 AH, died there in 571 AH. May Allah have mercy on him, made use of every moment of his time, such that academic institutions are unable to print all of his contributions to Islamic heritage. He wrote them alone, by hand. He researched, wrote, classified, ordered, and edited them, presenting to people a lasting legacy, a wonder of his vast knowledge and amazing memory, strong determination and discipline, and talent in abundance and unique writing. I include here a brief overview of his biography taken from 3 books, restricting myself to passages related to his wide travels, abundant writing, and use of every moment of his life. Historian and judge Ibn Khaliqan wrote in Wayafat al-Ayan in his biography, Ibn Asakir was one of the most prominent scholars of hadith of Ash-Sham in his time, and one of the most prominent fuqaha of the Shafi madhab. He was particularly dedicated to the science of hadith and became known for it. He strove hard in compiling the hadith such that he gathered more than any other scholar. He travelled widely to various lands, met with scholars, and was the companion of Al-Hafid Abu Sa'id Abdul Karim ibn As-Sam'ani in his journey. The number of scholars he met in various places in the land of Islam reached 7,000. He was trustworthy and of high morals, gathering hadith and their chains of narrations. He studied in Baghdad, then returned to Damascus, then travelled to Khorasan and went to Nisapur, Harat, Isfahan, and Al-Jibal. He wrote many beneficial books and authenticated the chain of many hadith. He had deep knowledge of hadith and was gifted in compilation and writing. He wrote 80 volumes of Tarikh al-Dimashq, the history of Damascus, which is a book following the style Tarikh Baghdad of Khatib al-Baghdadi in terms of his criteria in choosing whom to quote. Yet it surpassed it many times in size, scope, comprehensiveness, and benefit. When that Tariq became well known, our Sheikh and scholar Al-Hafid Zaki al-Din Abu Muhammad Abdul Azim al-Mundari, the scholar of Hadith in Egypt, said, I believe that this man made the intention to write this book when he was mature enough to think, and began to gather information from that time, for otherwise life is too short for one to write such a book after becoming preoccupied with teaching and narration. He had spoken the truth indeed, for whoever contemplates the Tariq realizes this. For how could one find the time to write such a book, considering it represents only what he finally selected and authenticated following several stages of writing and innumerable drafts? Furthermore, he has other important writings and interesting volumes. The number of books of Al-Hafid Abul Qasim ibn Asakir exceeded 50 books, including the 80-volume Tariq Madinat Dimashq, as mentioned above. The great resolve of Ibn Asakir in his extensive travels in Muslim lands. Al-Dhahabi wrote in Tadkhirat al-Hufad, He is the great Imam and scholar of Hadith, the Mahadif of Ash-Sham, the pride of the Imams, Abul Qasim ibn Asakir, the author of many books, including At-Tariq al-Kabir. He was born in early 499 AH and started learning Hadith in 505 AH, under the care of his father and brother, Imam Diyahuddin Hibatullah. He studied Hadith in Damascus and travelled at the age of 20, and he studied in Baghdad, then in Mecca, then in Al-Kufa, Nisapur, Isfahan, Mar, Herat, and compiled Al-Arba'in al-Buldaniyah, 40 hadith from 40 shuyukh from 40 countries, and the number of his shayukh reached 1,300 scholars, which included over 80 female scholars. Many people narrated on his authority, including his companion on his journey, Abu Sa'd al-Samani. Then Al-Dhahabi enumerated his writings, which reached around 50 books, and he dictated in circles of knowledge 408 lessons, each equivalent to a book. His son, the scholar of Hadith, Baha'u'ddin al-Qasim, said, My father, may Allah have mercy on him, regularly went to congregational prayer and to recitation, completing the recitation of the Quran every week, and completing it every day in Ramadan. He used to do itikaf in the eastern minaret of the Mosque of Damascus. He offered a lot of supererogatory prayers and was often engaged in dhikr. He dedicated himself during the middle of the night of Shaban and the nights of the 2 Eids to prayer and dhikr, and he brought himself to account for every moment that passed. For 40 years, since his shuyukh granted him qualification to narrate and teach, he dedicated himself fully to compiling and teaching, even during his leisure and solitude.
Al-Hafid Abu Ala al-Hamadani said, Abul Qasim ibn Asakir was known in Baghdad as a shining flame due to his intelligence, enthusiasm and dedication. Abul Mawahib ibn Sasra said to Ibn Asakir, Did our master see anyone like him? He replied, Does not Allah say, Ascribe no purity to yourselves? I said, Allah also said, And proclaim the grace of your Lord. He said, If one were to say, My eyes have never seen anyone like myself, he would have been truthful. Then Abul Mawahib said, And I say I have never seen anyone like him, and no one who was endowed with all his qualities, such as following one mission for 40 years, always praying congregational prayers in the first row, except when he had an excuse, regularly observing itikaf in the month of Ramadan and the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, having no interest in acquiring property and building houses, for he avoided all that, and avoided seeking positions of imams and preachers, and rejected them when offered to him, and dedicated himself to enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, not fearing the blame of any blamer. Ibn Asakir's dedication to knowledge, his numerous shuyukh and sheikhat, and his excellence and conscientiousness. Imam Tajuddin as-Subki wrote in Tabaqat al-Shafi'ah al-Kubra in his biography, He is the eminent Imam, the Hafid of the Ummah, Abul Qasim ibn Asakir, and we do not know of any of his forefathers by the name of Asakir, but he was rather known by that name. He is the servant and advocate of the Sunnah, the Imam of the scholars of Hadith of his time, and the seal of the great Hufad, the destination of the journey of seekers of knowledge. He devoted himself to various sciences, occupying himself only with knowledge and action, and were his sole desires. He possessed a memory that missed no point, a rigorous authenticator with ingenious ways and criteria and meticulous perfection, equating him to his predecessors, if not excelling them, and a width of knowledge which rendered all else lacking in his presence. He learnt from many people, and the number of his scholars reached 1,300 shuyukh and over 80 sheikhat. He travelled to Iraq, then Mecca, then Medina, then he travelled to the lands of the non-Arabs. He studied in Isfahan, Nisapur, Mar, Tabriz, Mihana, Yabhaq, Khusrjird, Bistam, Damigan, Aray, Zanjan, Hamadan, Asadabad, Jay, Herat, Bawan, Bagh, Bushang, Sarkhas, Nuqan, Simnan, Abharm, Marand, Khoway, Jarbazaqan, Mushkan, Ruzrawa, Hulwan, Arjish. He also studied in Anbar, Rafiqa, Rahba, Maridin, Makisin, and other cities in many lands, travelling far and wide, not tiring from the length of the journey, alone, except for his taqwa, which he took for a companion, and determination, which aspired to the highest of goals as a precious prize. His Sheikh al-Khatib Abul Fadl al-Tusi said, We do not know of anyone deserving this title of Al-Hafid in this time except him. Ibn al-Najjar said, He was the Imam of the Muhaddithin of his time, and the possessor of the highest precision in memorization and perfection, wide knowledge of the sciences of Hadith, trustworthiness and nobleness, high quality of writing and teaching, and the seal of this field. I heard our Sheikh, Abdul Wahhab ibn al-Amin, saying, One day I was with Al-Hafid Abul Qasim ibn Asakir and Abu Sa'd ibn as-Samani seeking hadith and meeting scholars. We met one Sheikh, and Ibn as-Samani stopped him to verify a hadith from him. But when he came to the part which he wished to read and verify, he could not find him, and was distressed. Ibn Asakir said to him, "What is the part you want to read?" He replied, "The book of Al-Ba'th wa Al-Nushur of Ibn Dawood, learnt from Abu Nasr al-Zaynabi." He said to him, "Do not worry," and he read it, or part of it, from memory. Sheikh Muhyiddin an-Nawawi said about him, and I quote from his handwriting, "He is the Hafid of Ash-Sham, or rather of the whole world, the absolute Imam, the trustworthy, precise authenticator of Hadith." Ibn Asakir's great concern for his learning. His son, Al-Hafid Abul Muhammad al-Qasim, related, "My father had learnt from many shuyukh, many books of which he obtained no copies, relying on the copies of his friends Al-Hafid Abu Ali al-Wazar, for what Ibn al-Wazir wrote down, my father did not, and vice versa. I heard him one night talking to a friend of his under the moonlight in the mosque. He said, I travelled, but it as if I had not travelled, and I learnt, but it is as if I had not learnt. I thought that my companion Ibn al-Wazir will return the books I had learnt, such as Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, the books of al-Bayhaqi and others. But he resided in Mar and remained there. I hoped that another friend of mine will arrive, one known by the name of Yusuf ibn Farawa al-Jayani, or another one, Abul Hasan al-Muradi, for he said to me, perhaps I will come to Damascus and from there go home to Al-Andalus. However, none of them came to Damascus, and I thought it was necessary for me to travel once again to study these great books. A few days later, a man came to his house and said, Abul Hasan al-Muradi has come. My father went to him, welcomed him, and received him in his house, and he brought with him 4 boxes full of books he had copied. My father was extremely happy and thanked Allah for facilitating the arrival of what he had learnt from him without further hardship, and saved him from travelling again. He copied those books until he obtained that which he sought, and he was such that whenever he obtained a part of it, it was as if he had possessed the ownership of this world. May Allah have mercy on him and be pleased with him. These were glimpses from the life of the eminent Imam, Al-Hafid ibn Asakir al-Dimishqi, in which I perceived amazing marvels and entertaining wonders. Had it not been for his conservation of time and good use of minutes and seconds, he would not have been able to write those great, huge, beneficial works, which academic institutions are incapable of printing today, let alone write their likes. Thus, dear readers, let us all use every moment of our time, for it is the treasure of blessing and goodness. Careful distribution of activities according to the time suitable for them. What one must highlight here when considering time is that academic work must be given the right time that is suitable for it. For some academic activities are appropriate for any time or state of mind due to their ease, such as copying, light reading and the like, which do not necessitate a free mind, complete concentration, and deep, precise reflection. On the other hand, there are academic activities which can only be fully achieved during times when the mind is free, when intuition and understanding are apt, when blessings abound, such as the hours of late night, dawn, morning, and the hours of peace and quiet of night and the complete emptiness and silence of space and time. These peaceful and blessed times must be taken advantage of in order to solve problematic issues and difficult questions, to disentangle complicated problems, to correct and edit writings, to seek to clarify ambiguous obscure expressions, to memorize texts and the like. The best times and places for memorization. Al-Hafid al-Khatib al-Baghdadi wrote in his book Al-Faqih wal-Mutafaqih regarding the best times for memorization and the most suitable places which facilitate the task. Know that memorization has its times which must be kept in mind by those who seek to memorize, and that it has places where one seeking to memorize must remain. The best of times are the late hours of the night, followed by the middle of the day, then the mornings rather than the afternoons. Memorization by night is better than memorization by day, and the times of hunger are better for memorization than hours of satiety. The one seeking to memorize should assess his state of hunger, for some people are not able to memorize in a state of extreme hunger and thirst. Hence, they should quench it by something light, and should not eat much. As for the best places, then they are the upper rooms rather than the lower halls, and any place that is far from distractions, where the heart is empty from anything that may distract it and occupy it, or overcome it and prevent it from memorizing. It is not recommended to memorize near plants or greenery, nor near rivers, or on the side of the road, for such places are seldom free from things that prevent concentration and peace. His advice regarding places is different from that of Abu Nasr al-Farabi. Al-Qadi ibn Khalikan wrote in his biography, Wafayat al-Ayan, he was a solitary man, not mixing with people. During his stay in Damascus, he was mostly near rivers or gardens, where he wrote his books and received his students. Avoiding noise when memorizing or studying. Students of knowledge are recommended to seek solitude and stay away from people and noise, because solitude facilitates clarity of thinking, and when the mind is clear and understanding is correct. They are seeing knowledge through the balance of the intellect, and this balance is extremely fine, and is affected by the least of desires or distractions, making it deviate from its proper state. Thus, in seeking specific and difficult matters of knowledge, one must give careful consideration to the time and place, so that comprehension may be achieved, and conception and judgment may be correct. The Imam of Hadith and Fiqh Abu Sulaiman Hamd ibn Muhammad al-Khattabi al-Busti, born in 319 AH and died in 388 AH, may Allah have mercy on him, said, "When I am alone, my mind is clear, and I find thoughts as bright as lightning in the darkness. While when my ear is distracted by the clamour of the shouters, I become unable to articulate my thoughts." Some knowledge is of little consequence, has minimal benefit, is superfluous, and the need for it is even less. Time should not be spent on seeking such knowledge, nor should minds be preoccupied with it, for preoccupation with the less preferred things prevents obtaining what is preferred and the better, and causes one to consume time and energy, and prevents one from achieving one's goals and wishes. Salih ibn Abdul Qudus wrote, "If you seek knowledge, then know that it is a burden. Hence, take care of what you carry, and if you find something better than it, then preoccupy your heart with that which is better." The wise man must devote his keen mind and precious time to better actions and the higher aspirations, in order to attain what is most excellent and useful. Fighting feelings of boredom and lack of motivation. Abu Hilal al-Askari wrote in his book Al-Haf ala Talab al-Ilm that Ibn Jar al-Mawsili said, "One should delay one's lesson of literature and poetry to his time of boredom." Ibn al-Maraqi said, "One must trick oneself in learning." He means that when one is bored or unmotivated, one should not give in to that or interrupt one's lessons or learning, but should rather deal with his lack of motivation and strive against one's boredom, until he overcomes it and achieves vitality and the revival of spirit. Ways to overcome boredom, sleepiness, and laziness. This may be achieved sometimes through such actions as chewing gum, leaving an enclosed room for an open space, moving from one room to another, taking a quick cold or hot shower, drinking a light drink, eating something light, talking to a friend, reciting some poetry, reciting Quran in a loud voice, changing one's posture, walking or going up, changing the subject or book being studied, or similar actions. There is a suitable way for everybody, and motivation has a key, which is not hidden from the intelligent, determined ones. Need to devote oneself to the important matters before the less important ones. Al-Hafid al-Baghdadi, may Allah have mercy on him, said, "Knowledge is like seas which can never be contained and minerals which can never be exhausted. So occupy yourself with the most important of it, for whoever occupies himself with the unimportant loses the important." That is what was referred to by Al-Abbas ibn al-Hasan al-Alawi, who was one of the most prominent scholars and the ingenious poet, one of the companions of the Caliph Harun al-Rashid, and then Caliph al-Ma'mun, in his precious advice, which I wish to include here fully for the deep insight and eloquent expression contained in it. Al-Abbas al-Alawi on giving priority to what is important. Al-Abbas, may Allah have mercy on him, said, "Know that your mind cannot contain everything, hence dedicate it to the important matters. Know that your money is not sufficient to enrich all people, hence devote it to the rightful people. Know that your generosity cannot be enough for all the people, hence seek to reserve it for the people of grace. Know that your night and day cannot satisfy all your needs, even if you strive hard, hence divide them carefully between times of work and times of rest. For occupying your mind with that which is unimportant is undermining what is important, and the money you spend in useless expenses you will lack when you need it for necessary ones. And the generosity you bestow on those undeserving of it will undermine you when you are unable to bestow it on people of grace. Spend your night and day on unnecessary matters, and you will regret it in times of need." These are glimpses highlighting the value of time in the lives of those noble scholars and imams, only some of whom I have mentioned, and they were all the pride of Islam, nay, the pride of humanity. Those are people who honour Allah raised, and no other honour excels it, however great it may be. Henceforth, dear reader, you shall not be astonished when you hear or read that certain scholars wrote over 100 books that contributed to enriching every science, for the reason behind their success is that they made use of all of their time and avoided excessive curiosity or were not heedless of the passing of time. They used every moment, minute and hour, and thus produced such lasting legacies. Scholars who wrote 50 or 100 books. Ustad Jamil al-Adham al-Damashqi, who died in 1352 AH, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote in a book called Uqud al-Jahwar fi tarajim man lahum khamsuna tasnifan famiyatun fa aktar, The Pearl Chains, on the biographies of those who wrote 50 to 100 books and more, in which he mentioned many scholars who were known for the abundance of their writings. He mentioned Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, Ibn al-Jawzi, al-Nawawi, Ibn Sina, al-Ghazali, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Ibn al-Qayyim, Ali al-Qari al-Munawi, Abul Ghani al-Nabulsi, Abul Hayy al-Laknawi, and others whose works exceeded 50 books. If you read the biographies of these noble scholars and those like them, you will feel motivated by their lives to appreciate the value of time, to join their ranks if you have the ambition and determination, such that you do not leave this world except that you have left behind 30, 40, or 50 books, and Allah increases in creation what He wills, and He bestows His mercy on whom He chooses, and Allah is all-sufficient, all-knower. Useful ways to facilitate gaining time and benefiting from it. In order to conserve time and gain it, follow the advice of the early scholars concerning the characteristics of the seekers of knowledge, which qualify him to acquire knowledge and of whom excellence is expected. He must be fast at writing, fast in reading, and fast in walking. Being a fast walker enables the student to be able to visit all the shuyukh in a short time, while being a fast writer and reader reduces the time spent on that which can be used for other tasks, and to increase in knowledge. These characteristics undoubtedly facilitate increasing knowledge and learning from scholars in the shortest time and life. I added to the above a fourth quality, that one must be fast at eating, for if he were not, and was instead slow and engrossed in eating, the time he saved through his fast reading, writing and walking would be wasted through the length of time spent in eating. Thus, he would not know how to manage his time well, nor how to benefit from the above advice. Eating, sleeping, and resting for the seeker of knowledge must be according to necessity. Imam an-Nawawi, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote in the magnificent introduction to his great book Al-Majmu', the student must be concerned for knowledge, preserving regularly in studying at all times, by night and day, in residence or travel, and must not spend his time in anything other than knowledge, except according to necessity, such as eating, sleeping, taking short breaks in order to dispel boredom, and other similar necessities. Abul Wafa ibn Uqayl, I strive to shorten my meal times. Imam Abul Wafa ibn Uqayl al-Hanbali, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote, I strive my utmost to shorten my meal times as much as possible, to the extent that I choose to eat bread with water rather than bread alone, because of the difference in time of chewing, in order to save time for reading or writing some beneficial matter. Indeed, the best profit in the eyes of the wise ones by the consensus of the scholars is time, for it is a profit in which opportunities are sought, for tasks are many and times are fleeting. As-Sayuti's explanation of how the seeker of knowledge can gain time. Al-Hafid al-Imam As-Sayuti, may Allah have mercy on him, highlighted the need of the seeker of knowledge to be fast at eating, as well as walking and writing, in order to conserve time, in 2 verses of poetry in which he said, Our Sheikh al-Kinani told us about his father and the famous preacher who said, Hurry, O seeker of knowledge, in 3 things, eating, walking and writing. The Sheikh al-Kinani mentioned here is the Imam and Supreme Judge Izzuddin Ahmed ibn Ibrahim al-Kinani al-Misri al-Hanbali, may Allah have mercy on him. Lost time never returns. O dear reader, O wise, intelligent, perceptive brother, you must preserve your time from waste, for the time you live is a transient state which cannot be repeated nor returned. It is said, what has passed has gone, and what is anticipated is unknown, and you have but the hour in which you are living. Thus, seek to gain time and benefits from it by organizing yourself and managing your times and tasks. As a student or a teacher, writer or reader, listener or reciter, or as a worshipper, and do not wrong yourself by killing time, wasting hours of your life and moments of your existence, wronging yourself and being wronged, seeking rest and laziness, and leaving noble deeds and elevated positions. Laziness is the worst companion, and love of rest brings regret. Imam Abul Faraj ibn al-Jawzi, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote in his gentle letter in which he advised his son, which he called Laftat al-Kadib fi Nasiha al-Walad. Laziness in doing noble deeds is the worst companion. Love of rest and idleness leads to regret which exceeds any pleasure. So be aware and tire yourself for your benefit, and regret what has passed and what you have wasted. Strive to catch up with the ranks of the perfect ones as long as there is a chance. Water your tree so long as it has life, and remember the hours you have wasted, for they would be sufficient as a reminder, as they were spent on the pleasures of laziness, whilst opportunities for reaching noble levels were wasted. Motivation may slacken and sometimes may be wasted, but when encouraged it is revived, and motivation stops only because of the lack of determination and ambition. For whenever ambition is high, it cannot be satisfied with little. If one is high, he would aspire to attain the highest summits, whilst those who are low are content with what is lowest. Aspiring noble deeds and perfection is a sign of nobility. Then know that seeking the virtuous deeds is the end goal of those who strive, and that there are varying levels of good deeds. There are people who see virtue to be ascetics, whilst others see it as occupation with worship. In fact, the highest virtues are none other than combining knowledge and action. For when they are achieved, the person is raised to the highest status, for that is the aspired goal. and according to one's ambitions, opportunities arise. Thus, your ambition must be to seek perfection. Some people restricted themselves to asceticism, and others devoted themselves to knowledge, whilst yet others combined complete knowledge with complete action. However, not everything one desires is achieved, nor does every seeker find what he is seeking, nor does everyone who begins a praiseworthy matter complete what he began, and not everything one wishes for one achieves, or as the famous poet Abdul said, "And not every lover of goodness is a doer of it, nor does every doer of it complete it. But one must strive, and each will have that for which he was created for facilitated for him, and Allah, glory be to him, is the giver of aid." Most important ways to gain time. Indeed, the most important ways of gaining time are organizing one's time and activities, avoiding idle useless gatherings, avoiding excessive curiosity in everything, keeping the company of the serious, intelligent, time-conscious people, reading about the eminent scholars and then motivating biographies, such as the aforementioned ones, taking pleasure in gaining time and using it for academic achievement, engrossing oneself in the pleasure of reading and increasing one's knowledge and understanding, for that makes one realize the value of time and motivates one to conserve it, to gain it, and not waste it. Time is life. The rightly guided teacher and advisor Hassan al-Banna, may Allah have mercy on him, said, "Whoever knows the real value of time knows life itself, for time is life." The jurist and poet Omar al-Yamani, who died in 569, may Allah have mercy on him, said in a poem, quoted in his biography in Wafayat al-Ayan of Ibn Khaliqan, "If your capital is your life, then beware of spending it in what is not necessary. For between the alternation of night and day is a battle, the army of which brings wonders." The famous Egyptian poet Ahmed Shawqi also wrote, "One's heartbeats say to him, life is but minutes and seconds. Hence, build for yourself a legacy after its death, for a man's legacy is a second life." Hafsa bint Sirin, action is but during youth. The real and effective period of life is one's youth, for youth is the time for action and achievement, and production and contribution, when strength is abundant, ambition is high, and diseases, problems, and obstacles due to fewer commitments are fewer. The eminent Tabi'iyah Hafsan bint Sirin used to say, "O youth, exert yourself whilst you are young, for I believe action is only during youth." Imam an-Nawawi wrote in his valuable introduction to his important book, Al-Majmu', "The seeker of knowledge must seek to learn during times of leisure and vitality, and in a state of youth, physical strength, aptitude of mind, and freedom from preoccupations, before the symptoms of incapacity." Imam Ahmed, "I likened youth to a thing I had in my sleeve, then it fell." A long life shortens day after day, yet you often forget that it is fleeting and will not return, so you do not use it and benefit from it, and you think it is ever long, lasting, slow, whilst the truth is far from that. Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "I only likened youth to something I had in my sleeve, and then it fell." And he lived 77 years. For youth, even if extended, is little, and life, even if prolonged, is short. May Allah bless him who said, "The adhan is made in the baby's ear at birth. while the prayer is delayed till his death, a sign that his life is short, just like the time between adhan and prayer. Another said, and between the boy's birth and his death, if one is honest with oneself, is a lifetime, for what comes is like what has passed, and it is but your little short time. The spread of intellectual laziness among students nowadays. It is unfortunate that intellectual laziness has become widespread among today's students, and they have come to prefer rest and idleness over striving and struggling. Luxury and all forms of useless curiosity have become a purpose of life for them, and pleasures have become a goal for them, such that they have no time left for studying and seeking knowledge. Their state has come to resemble that referred to by Imam Ahmad ibn Faris al-Razi, the philologist born in 329 AH, died 395 AH, may Allah have mercy on him, when he said, "If you are harmed by the heat of summer, and the dryness of autumn, and the cold of winter, and you are distracted by the beauty of springtime, then tell me, when will you seek knowledge?" Al-Alusi and his great concern for learning and knowledge. The eminent scholar Abul Ma'ali Mahmud Shukri al-Alusi al-Baghdadi, the grandson, man of letters, who died in 1342 AH, may Allah have mercy on him, was known for his extreme earnestness and conservation of time. He was distracted from his lessons neither by the heat of summer nor the cold of winter, and his students were often criticized and reprimanded for their lack of punctuality. His student, Sheikh Bajjat al-Athari, said about him, "I remember that I missed his lesson one day when the weather was very unsettled. The wind was blowing severely, it was raining hard, and the ground was very muddy," thinking that he would not attend the lesson. When I came to school the next day, he recited a verse of poetry in an angry tone. And there is no good in he who was obstructed by heat and cold. During old age, one is busier and weaker than during youth. Some imagine that their days would be less busy in the future, that there would be fewer problems and obstacles, and that they will have more free time than during the past youth. However, experience shows quite the opposite, dear reader, so let me quote to you from the one who experienced that and concluded, "The older you get, the greater your responsibilities will be, the more relations you will have, the more restricted your time will be, and the lesser your energy. Time is more restricted after youth, and one's body is weaker, health is less abundant, vitality is lower, and duties and preoccupations are more numerous and more severe. Hence, make use of your time whilst it is available to you, and do not attach your heart to the unknown, for each stage has its own occupations, duties, and surprises." Some even stress the lack of days of happiness and the abundance of days of hardship. They say life is all 2 days. One is pleasures and one is hardships. They were not truthful, for life is 1 day of happiness and many days full of hardships and surprises. Youth is the time of striving and pleasures, and old age is the time of weakness and problems. Action, striving, strength, glory, achievement, and pure pleasures are sought during the time of youth, not during old age, which is the time for illness, worries, troubles, and problems. As the poet said, "Youth, where glory is achieved, in it we find pleasure, whilst there are no pleasures for the old." When old age and its illnesses affected Abu Uthman al-Jahiz, the famous author, he used to recite these 2 very sad verses of poetry about the incapacity, weakness, and illness of old age. Do you hope, when you are old, to be as you were during the days of youth? Your soul has deceived you. No used garment is like a new one. Do not be idle in worldly or religious matters. The successful wise person is the one who fills every second and every moment of his present life and time with some beneficial action. Sayyiduna Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, disliked idleness and wasting time with no benefit. He said, I dislike to see any of you idle, with no action for this life or the hereafter. Time is the most precious property, yet the easiest to lose. May Allah have mercy on the pious minister and eminent scholar, Yahya ibn Hubayra al-Baghdadi al-Hanbali, who died in 560 AH, the Sheikh of Imam Ibn al-Jawzi, who said, Time is the dearest thing you can concern yourself with conserving, whilst I see that is the easiest thing for you to lose. An article by Ustad Ahmed Amin on use of time and the effects of losing it. I read an article by Ustad Ahmed Amin, the well-known Egyptian author, who died in 1373 AH, under the title of Free Time, which he included in his book, Faid al-Khatir, which I wished to include at the end of this treatise, with some editing, since it is very appropriate and useful. He wrote, Thousands and thousands of students are staying home during their 4 or 5 month summer holidays. Have their parents reflected on how this long time may be spent on something that could be beneficial for their bodies, minds, characters, and their country? And half of this nation, women, remain at home, but how do they spend their free time? If time is the means by which we invest money, acquire knowledge, and improve health, how much of it have we wasted? And how many lifetimes are wasted in vain, with no action for this life, nor for the hereafter? Among the effects of wasting time is the waste of resources, which could have been invested had it not been for neglecting time and ignoring how it could be used. For how much fallow land could have been cultivated, and how many companies could have been established, and how many various institutions could have been built and managed by using a portion of free time. Among the consequences of wasting time in our world is the unpopularity of books and abandoning of reading, and contentment with ignorance. For there are no spirits to feel the unbearability of ignorance, just bodies that find pleasure in rest. The effect in the realm of finance is the same as that in the realm of books, for there too one finds the same satisfaction with little, contentment with the ease, stagnation and contentment with clerical work and jobs that do not require any effort or use of mind. Thinking and effort are for foreign workers who are energetic and know how to use their time. I do not mean by conserving time that it should all be filled with work, or that life should all be seriousness and strife, with no rest nor leisure, or that it should be gloomy with no laughter nor happiness. Rather, what I mean is that free time should not exceed times of work, and that free time must not be the purpose of life, whilst work is on the margin. Furthermore, I mean that free time should be subjected to the rule of mind, just like work is. For through work we wish to achieve some purpose, and free time must also be spent for some purpose, whether for some health benefit, such as permitted sports, or psychological pleasure, such as reading, or spiritual nourishment, such as night prayer, reciting Quran and Hadith, and supererogatory prayer and worship. But if one's purpose is killing time, then that is no legitimate purpose, for time is life, and killing time is killing life. Hence, those who spend long times playing chess, or backgammon, or in idle chatting or illegitimate entertainment, they are not working for a purpose that satisfies the mind, like those who wander around cafes, clubs and streets, seeking to kill time, as if time was one of their enemies. The key to treating this problem is to believe that man is able to change his likes and dislikes as he wills, that is able to change his taste as he wills, and can thus train his taste to like things which it has never tried, and to abhor things it has liked before. For most people are able, with strong will, to divide their free time between what will benefit them physically, mentally, and spiritually. It is unfortunate that the majority of people believe that reading light stories or cheap magazines is sufficient nourishment for their minds, and consider it sufficient for their intellectual leisure, while they are nothing but intoxicants for the mind and stimulants of sexual desires. A little patience and strength will prepare one for serious study and beneficial reading. Every cultured person is able to motivate interest in some serious field of knowledge which he can study in depth, whether it is literature, biology, physics, history of a particular era, or any field of human knowledge. He could then feed his interest in it, then devote a part of his day for studying it, such that he becomes a new person, with a particular strength, with a respectable character, and with some benefit to bring to himself, to his people, and to others. Thus the Ummah will be rich through its sons and daughters in all branches of science, knowledge, and arts, relying on each in their particular specialization on some aspect of life. The gathering of people would then become of higher standard, their thinking will become more noble, their lives more dynamic, and they could learn from each other some culture, knowledge, literature, behaviour, and valuing of time. Culture would then elevate, minds would expand, and life would become more noble. Vitality would increase, and methods of living would be more facilitated and prosperous. People would feel that it is their duty to nourish their minds just as they nourish their bodies, and that without such nourishment they can have no life, and that such nourishment is impossible without conserving time, gaining it, and optimizing benefits from it. Society and all people would then prosper in terms of environment, intellect, industry, production, contribution, and benefit. Make it a habit to always ask yourself, what have I done in my free time? Have I acquired some health, wealth, knowledge, or benefit for myself or others? Also question whether your free time is subjected to the rule of your mind, such that you had some praiseworthy purpose for which you spent your time. If that is the case, then you have succeeded. Otherwise, keep trying until you do succeed. A poem states, "The patient one is likely to achieve his purpose, and the one who persists in knocking is likely to enter." Thus, a little time dedicated every day for a specific task may change the course of your life and make you more upright and elevated than you could imagine. Ours is a nation that lives only a tenth of what it should live, or even less than that, whether concerning its economic, productivity, intellectual culture, or state of health, while the rest of its life is spent in vain, filled with laziness and idleness, devoted to such things as backgammon, chess, idle chat, or simply nothing. All that is required for it to live its potential is discovering a way of filling time fruitfully and subject it to the rule of divine law and reason. Time is life, and it is dearer than gold. The rightly guided teacher Ustad Hassan al-Banna, may Allah have mercy on him, wrote in an article under the title, "Time is Life." It is said, time is made of gold. That is true from the point of view of material value, for those who only measure existence by that scale. But time is life for those who think beyond that. Is your life in this universe anything other than the time which passes between birth and death? Gold can vanish, but you may acquire many times what you lose. But you cannot return lost time that has passed. Therefore, time is more precious than gold, and dearer than diamonds, or any precious stone, or any profit, for it is life itself. Success is not only dependent on a precise plan and suitable conditions alone, but is furthermore dependent on the appropriate time, and our forefathers used to warn against premature as well as belated decisions. Success ensures that when an action takes place, at the moment appropriate for it. And Allah measures the night and the days. Thus, those most affected by loss and failure are the heedless. Many are the jinns and men we have made for hell. They have hearts wherewith they understand not, and eyes wherewith they see not, and ears wherewith they hear not. They are like cattle, nay, more misguided, for they are heedless. Among the most wonderful depictions of the Prophet ﷺ concerning the value of time, there is not a new day that rises except that a caller calls out, "O son of Adam, I am a new creation, and a witness over your action. Hence, take your provision from me, for I shall not return until the day of judgment." Indeed, there is nothing in existence that is more precious than time. Times vary in their blessing, and beneficial output, and efficiency. There are times that are more blessed than others, days that are better in the sight of Allah than others, and months that are more noble than others. As a poem states, "It is blessing which makes an eye excel its counterpart, and makes a day the master of another." The Messenger of Allah ﷺ guided us to the realization of the value of time and the way to benefit from it in many hadith, indicating that the believer is between two fears, a past which has gone, with which he knows not how Allah will reckon, and a future that yet remains, for which he knows not what Allah has decreed. Thus, one must take from oneself for oneself, from one's present life for the hereafter, from youth before old age, and from life before death. Thus, O dear brother, make use of time, for time is like a sword. Abandon saying, "I will," and then delaying, for there is nothing more harmful than this, and ask Allah for guidance and success for accepted deeds and beneficial time. May Allah guide us and you, O dear reader, to conserve time and fill it with pious actions and beneficial knowledge, and make us among those aware of the value of time and life, such that they do not wrong themselves, their country, or their ummah, and such are the rightly guided. The End.